Your chest tightens as if someone has cinched an invisible belt around your ribs. The inbox pings, the meeting clock ticks louder than it should, and your jaw clamps down because if it doesn't, a dozen irritated words might spill out. Your heartbeat flickers in your throat. Your attention narrows to a straw, only the worst possibilities fit through. You hear yourself say, "I don't have time," even when you do. Sound familiar? Here's the promise. You are about to learn how to turn that rising static into a signal, how to interrupt the surge before it speaks for you, and how to convert a single pause into clear, decisive action. The next time the inner alarm blares, you won't drown in it. You'll use it. In 60 seconds, you'll shift from anxious impulse to chosen response. You won't become someone new. You'll uncover who's been quietly steering beneath the noise. Anxiety is not the villain. It's an overzealous bodyguard scanning for threats with a flashlight too bright. When the amygdala thinks you're in danger, it pulls blood flow from your prefrontal cortex, the part that plans, prioritizes, and picks wise actions. That's why you can be brilliant at 10 a.m. and baffled at 10:03. The goal isn't to exile the bodyguard, it's to appoint a calm chief of staff. Your pause is that appointment. When you pause, you steal back just enough oxygen and blood flow to bring online the part of your brain that chooses. Take a slow inhale through your nose right now. Count 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. Again, notice the cool air at your nostrils, the slight stretch along your ribs. This is not decoration. A longer exhale nudges your vagus nerve, telling your system to downshift. That's science in service of action. We aren't breathing for aesthetics. We're breathing to get your decision maker back on the mic. Here is your first framework. The stop reset, simple, tactical, 1-minute pause. Say it out loud so your nervous system hears it. S is for see, T is for tilt, O is for orient, P is for pivot. C means you name exactly what's happening. I'm feeling pressure and my mind is racing. Naming is not passive. It shifts activity from limbic chaos into the prefrontal's language centers, and some of the charge begins to melt. Tilt means you change one physical angle, sit back 2 inches, roll your shoulders, or place both feet on the floor. Tiny posture edits that signal, not an emergency. Orient means you widen your field. 3 things you can see, 2 you can touch, 1 you can hear. Pull your attention out of the tunnel. Pivot means you choose a smallest wise action, not the perfect one. In 60 seconds, you move from swirl to step. A story to anchor this. In a fluorescent conference room that smelled faintly of dry erase markers, Dana watched her product demo glitch twice. A thread of heat crawled up her neck. Her inner narrator spun up the greatest hits. They'll think you're incompetent. This deal is dead. You are dead. She reached for old habits, talk faster, fill every silence, promise everything, but her hand brushed the little sticker on her laptop hinge where she'd written stop in blue ink. See, my heart is pounding, I'm anxious. Tilt, she set both feet flat and leaned back an inch. Orient, the projector hum, the grain of the table, the coolness of her water glass. Pivot, give me 60 seconds to refresh. In the meantime, here are the 3 outcomes we designed for. The room exhaled with her. The glitch fixed itself. The clients nodded because leadership felt present. She didn't conquer anxiety, she commissioned it. That was the power of the pause. Let your shoulders soften now. Notice the weight of your tongue in your mouth. Feel the temperature of the air along your wrists. Your system reads these cues. The more precisely you feel your body, the less you're held hostage by the first alarm it rings. You're not escaping your experience, you're expanding it so it no longer owns you. Here's the second framework for today, the Window-Widen protocol. When anxiety narrows you to one catastrophic path, you widen the window to 3 answers and 1 action. The steps are felt, not forced. Step 1. Name the weather. Anxious surge, fast thoughts, tight chest. Step 2. Ask 2 questions. What's useful about this surge, and what matters here more than my image? The first question redeems anxiety's raw energy. The second points it at a value. Step 3. Draft 3 micro options that are each doable in 2 minutes or less. Step 4. Pick the smallest wise action. Widen, then choose. The brain loves concrete handles. It hates foggy horizons. You give it handles. Let's practice a micro drill right now so the protocol lives in your muscles. Set a 30-second timer if you can. Close your eyes or soften your gaze. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. Whisper the weather, racing mind, prickly skin, shallow breath. Ask the 2 questions quietly. You are training your reticular activating system, the brain's filter, to search for useful signals rather than threats alone. Now list, in your mind or on paper, 3 tiny actions aligned to your value. If you value clarity, your actions might be: write the 1-sentence outcome for this email, delete 2 adjectives, send a draft to a colleague. If you value honesty, state the constraint out loud, ask for a new deadline, propose a trade-off. Pick the smallest, do it. Breathe again and scan from your scalp down to your soles. Notice the shift, maybe only 2% softer, but notice it. That recognition is more than comfort, it's coding. Neuroplasticity follows attention. When you mark even tiny improvements, your brain tags the sequence as worth repeating. You might worry that pausing will make you slow or indecisive. The opposite. Panic burns time in spirals. A pause buys time in a straight line. When you stop feeding anxiety with frantic motion, you hear the one thing that matters next. This is not about becoming mellow, it's about becoming precise. Anxiety shouts, "Do something," and you reply, "I'm doing the right thing." Another breath. Lengthen your exhale by 1 count. Feel the chair supporting the back of your ribs. Let your jaw hang for a beat and then gently close it, letting your molars stay a millimeter apart. If your hands are clenched, uncurl them and feel the air on your palms. You are writing to your nervous system in a language it understands: posture, breath, sight, sound. You will meet resistance. A part of you will say, "This is silly. Real problems need real speed." That voice is also a form of protection. Thank it, then test reality. Run this experiment. The next time your phone lights up with a message that makes your stomach drop, give yourself the 90-second weather rule. For 90 seconds, do nothing except breathe 4-4-6 and narrate sensations like a sports announcer. The rule is built on the observation that emotion, when not refed by catastrophic thinking, surges and fades within about 90 seconds. You're not waiting the storm out, you're learning to surf it long enough to steer. Picture the scene: you open a text from a friend that reads, "We need to talk." That phrase can be a pin pulled from a grenade. Your pulse skitters, old stories stampede. You apply the rule, 90 seconds. You feel the heat in your cheeks, the saliva gather, the micro flicker in your eyelids. You notice the tug to reply instantly with defense or apology. You breathe. The urge drops from a shout to a murmur. Then you run the Window-Widen. What's useful about this surge? It says the relationship matters. What matters more than image? Staying truthful and curious. 3 options: ask for a time to talk and share context. Send 1 clarifying question. Name your emotion and request a tone of collaboration. Smallest wise action. Got your message. I'm available after 6. Is there anything specific you'd like me to prepare? You did not fix the future. You did choose your stance. Let the edges of your eyes soften. Feel the gentle thud of your heartbeat against your shirt. If you listen, there's a quiet room inside you, a sanctuary with a door that closes softly. It doesn't lock out life. It mutes the echo long enough for sense to form. Each pause is you stepping into that room, looking out the window, then stepping back into the day, carrying one clear sentence. If you want an anchor for today, use this sentence: I am the awareness, not the emotion. Say it when the surge rises. Say it when the meeting turns. Say it when your brain plays apocalypse. It is not a denial, it is positioning. You are the sky, the weather is passing through. Even the wildest thunderstorm looks different when you remember you are the horizon holding it. We'll keep a simple practice journal to track your shifts. Call it your pause ledger. Each day, capture 3 entries: the trigger, the pause you used, and the pivot you chose. Example: trigger, client email with red exclamation. Pause, stop, reset 446 named weather. Pivot, replied with one question and proposed call tomorrow. Over a week, you'll see patterns, moments where your old reflexes loosen and your new reflexes fire faster. This is not self-critique, it's self-calibration. In Dana's case, 3 weeks after the glitch, she found herself in a hallway confrontation with a colleague who wanted a feature that didn't exist. Her old self would have defended, apologized, and promised the moon. Instead, she felt the heat, saw it, tilted back, oriented to the hum of the vending machine and the coolness of the wall, then pivoted. I want the same outcome. What's the smallest piece we can ship this week that proves value? The conversation moved from blame to building. Anxiety had tried to sprint. She invited it to jog beside her, eyes forward. Now notice your breathing again. Is it smoother? Even if it isn't, notice that. The practice is not perfection, it's precision under pressure. When you pause, you reclaim the centimeter between stimulus and response and stretch it into a room where wisdom fits. That centimeter is your advantage. It is where you choose the next right sentence, the next right step, the next right tone. We'll close today with a 1-minute drill you can deploy anywhere: the pocket pause. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. Whisper your weather, ask the 2 questions, name 3 micro-options, pick one, then before you act, add a forward checkpoint. Does this serve values? If yes, go. If no, shrink the action until it does. You will be amazed how often a single honest question prevents a dozen repairs. You don't have to earn the right to pause, you already have it. The world does not speed because you slowed your exhale, the world clarifies because you did. Tomorrow will still bring inboxes and alarms and rooms that smell like stress, but you will walk in carrying a different instrument. You won't add noise, you will add signal. And anxiety, once your tyrant, will become your scout, pointing to what matters and helping you move there cleanly. There is a second you rarely notice, the breath right after the first pause. The surge has softened, the room has edges again, and a thin path opens in front of you. That second is where clarity is either harvested or lost. Today you'll learn to harvest it. Anxiety loves vagueness. Vagueness multiplies options until you drown. Clarity loves constraints. Constraints turn choices into choreography. We will give your pause a job so it stops being a stall and becomes a switch. Picture your attention like a radio dial. When pressure rises, the needle jumps between stations, catching fragments, criticism on one, catastrophe on another. Your job after the pause is not to analyze every broadcast. Your job is to tune to one channel and transmit a clean message to your brain and body. You'll do that with the Clear Channel Protocol. It takes less than a minute, and it pairs perfectly with the stop reset you've already practiced. Here is how it feels. You name one outcome in one sentence, you attach one constraint of time or scope, and you pick one first verb. Outcome, constraint, verb, that's your channel. Let's step into it. You've just used your pause. Your chest loosens by a notch. You drop your shoulders and take a 4-4-6 breath. Now speak the channel, outcome, clarify the priority for this afternoon. Constraint, 20 minutes total, verb draft. This is not a to-do list. It is a compass sentence that trains your reticular activating system to filter for what matches. Unsupported anxiety will keep offering catastrophes. A clear channel will feed you evidence that serves the outcome. The brain obeys the questions you ask it. Ask small, sharp ones. A story to make this real. Javier is a nurse on the night shift. 2 alarms chirp, a family member is asking rapid-fire questions, and a new admission is rolling in from the ER. In his old pattern, his mind would spray in every direction, and the anxiety would hitch a ride on his hands. He'd hurry, apologize, and lose track of the simple order that protects patients and protects him. Last week, he tried something new. He felt the heat crawl up the back of his neck. He paused, one breath, then another. Clear channel protocol, outcome, stabilize the new patient's vitals. Constraint, first 5 minutes, verb assess. He said the sentence under his breath as he sanitized his hands. The noise was still there, but his nervous system got one job. He introduced himself, checked airway, breathing, circulation, then turned to the family with a steady voice. I'm assessing first to keep him safe. I'll update you in 5 minutes. His clarity calmed the room because clarity always travels. He didn't remove pressure, he choreographed it. Let the air cool your nostrils as you inhale slowly. Feel the slight lift at your collarbones. As you exhale, notice your tongue rest heavier in your mouth and the way the floor holds your weight without complaint. Sensation is the bridge back to yourself. Your pause pulls you onto that bridge. The clear channel gets you across. There is another common trap you'll learn to disarm: rumination disguised as preparation. You might call it thinking it through, but the loop never ends. The loop eats lunch with you, rides home in the passenger seat, and sleeps on your pillow. To cut the loop without cutting your intelligence, use the 2-question compass. Immediately after the pause, you ask, what outcome do I control in the next hour? And what is the smallest proof I can produce? The compass points away from image and toward evidence. When you produce a tiny proof, 1 sentence, 1 measurement, 1 request, you give your body a receipt. Receipts soothe nervous systems because they are tangible. Brains that fear ambiguity crave proof more than pep talk. Try it right now. Close your eyes for a moment unless you're moving. Inhale for 4, hold, exhale for 6. Whisper, what outcome do I control in the next hour? Let a plain answer surface. Now, what is the smallest proof I can produce? Maybe it's a 3-line summary of a decision. Maybe it's a screenshot of the priority list sent to your teammate. Maybe it's a calendar invite that names the trade-off you're proposing. Notice how your body reacts when you choose the proof. Sometimes your shoulders drop before you've even done the act. Sometimes your belly softens because a path exists. You are already changing state by choosing shape, and you haven't moved a muscle yet. You will notice that both frameworks rely on something subtle but powerful, language that is concrete, embodied, and brief. The parts of your brain that manage threat do not speak in paragraphs. They speak in signals. When you feed them short, sensory-linked sentences, they stop guessing. This is not about dumbing yourself down. It's about upgrading the way you give commands under load. The smartest people panic the fastest when their smarts are asked to do the body's job. Give the body a job it can do. Another story, different terrain. Nina is 3 months into a new role, and her boss asks for a quick overview before an executive review. Those 2 words, quick and overview, might as well be blank checks for stress. Nina's old habit was to try to impress by volume, 16 slides, 20 charts, every caveat. She paused instead. She felt the buzz in her forearms, the slight tremor in her jaw. Clear channel, outcome, a 10-minute story of what matters. Constraint, 3 slides. Verb strip, 2-question compass. What outcome do I control in the next hour? A coherent skeleton, what's the smallest proof? An executive summary of 3 lines. She breathed, stripped the deck to a title, a single chart, and a next step slide. In the review, her boss nodded and said, "Finally, clarity." Anxiety had tried to sell her on polish. The pause sold her on purpose. Check in with your senses again. The skin along your forearms, is it cool or warm? Can you hear a distant hum, appliance, traffic, your own breath? If your feet are on the ground, press your toes lightly into your shoes and feel the pressure arc across the ball of each foot. These micro movements write safety into your spine. Safety frees strategy. Strategy births action. It's a simple ladder that works when you climb it gently. Let's add a micro practice that will thread through your day, the anchored outcome sentence. You'll carry it on a note card or a lock screen. Each morning, write one sentence that starts with "Today I serve by" and ends with a verb you can perform and a person you can picture. Today I serve by clarifying blockers for Sam. Today I serve by delivering a clean draft for Maya. Today I serve by asking one brave question in the 2 p.m. meeting. Service directs anxiety's energy away from self-image toward contribution. Contribution shrinks self-consciousness without erasing self-respect. When the surge hits, read the sentence. It anchors the channel to a face. Faces beat fog. If you worry that this is soft, test it in conflict. Conflict heats the mind fastest. The next time criticism lands in your lap, words sharp, tone sharper, run the 90-second where the rule you learned, then the 2-question compass. You'll often discover that the smallest proof is not an explanation, but a question that reveals reality. What outcome would satisfy you today? Or what's the smallest change that would move us forward? These questions aren't magic, they are scalpels. They cut away the vague pain until a specific problem appears. Anxiety thrives on the general, it starves on the particular. There's neuroscience behind the calm you're building, but we keep it practical. When you pause and breathe with a longer exhale, your vagus nerve tones down your sympathetic surge. Blood flow returns to the prefrontal cortex, where sequencing and inhibition live. When you name an outcome and a verb, you recruit networks that plan motor action. The body prepares to act in the direction you described, not the fear you imagined. Over days of repetition, you carve a groove, synapses that fire together wire together, so that your default under pressure is to pause, channel, and choose. That's neuroplasticity in work clothes. Return to your body now. Feel the gentle weight of your eyelids. Unclench your teeth if you've clenched them. Roll your shoulders back once and let them settle. Place one palm over your sternum and feel the warmth spread under your hand. If you like, say quietly, "I am the awareness, not the emotion." Notice the breath move your palm. Notice the way those words open an inch of space behind your eyes. That inch is where you place your sentence and your verb. That inch is where you keep your dignity. A brief drill to deepen the groove. Set a 2-minute timer. Write your anchored outcome sentence for the next hour, not the whole day. Read it out loud. Then do a single 4-4-6 breath. Ask the 2-question compass. Name the smallest proof. Do it. Mark it in your pause ledger with 3 words. Sentence, proof, done. The ledger is not about gold stars. It's about building a map of when and how your nervous system listens. You'll see that it listens quicker when the sentence is tighter and the proof is closer to your hands. There will be days when the channel refuses to come into focus. You will pause and still feel fog. That's okay. Fog is weather, not identity. On those days, use the tiny gate. The tiny gate is one physical action that moves your body into the scene you're avoiding. Open the document. Put your shoes by the door. Dial the first 3 digits of the number. The gate is deliberately dumb. It ignores your dramatic thoughts and votes with motion. Motion teaches your brain that the dragon at the door is just a door. Often, the second step appears once the first is taken. If it doesn't, you've still voted for agency, and agency compounds. Finally, a relationship scene, because anxiety shows up where love lives. You're at the kitchen counter. A partner's comment lands sideways and warmth leaps to your cheeks. Your old habit is to make a case or make a retreat. Try this instead. Pause, feel the cabinet edge against your thigh. Hear the spoon in the sink. Breathe long, clear channel, outcome, understand their need. Constraint, 2 minutes. Verb, ask. Then the 2-question compass. What outcome do I control this hour? My curiosity. What's the smallest proof? 1 clean question. You say, I want to get this right. What's the one thing you need from me right now? The room changes shape because you changed shape. Anxiety wanted you to defend an identity. The pause invited you to serve a value. Take one last slow breath. Hear the faintest sound in your environment. Feel the fabric on your shoulders. Let your jaw relax and your gaze widen to take in a little more of the room. You don't need a perfect plan to move. You need a clear sentence and a first verb. You don't need to silence anxiety. You need to guide it like you would a strong horse. Steady hands, soft voice, a path with simple fences. The power of the pause is growing in you, not as a trick, but as a posture. You will still feel pressure, and you will carry yourself through it with the kind of quiet that makes other people breathe easier too. When the next surge arrives, remember, stop, breathe, choose your channel, ask for the smallest proof, act, and record the receipt. Then return to your life as if you never left, because you didn't. You simply stepped into the quiet room within you, lined up with what matters, and stepped back out carrying one clear action. This is how anxiety becomes fuel. This is how clarity becomes a habit. And this is how you become the kind of person who moves with precision where you once moved with panic. Anxiety often borrows the voice of certainty. It says, this is definitely going to go wrong, and the body nods along because the body feels first and asks questions later. Today you'll teach your system to ask better questions, not with debate but with orientation. You'll learn to convert catastrophic certainty into flexible accuracy so action becomes simple again. The pause gives you a foothold. Now you'll use 2 tools to climb, the body budget check and the 3 perspective reframe. Together they stop the spiral where it starts, in your physiology and in your point of view. Take a slow inhale through your nose and find the edges of your ribs with your awareness. As you exhale, let your shoulders grow 1 millimeter heavier. Notice the taste in your mouth, even if it's nothing. These are not small things. When your body budget, glucose, sleep, hydration, movement runs low, the alarm system gets jumpy. A low budget makes ordinary emails feel like sirens. Before you call a thought truth, check the budget that colored it. That's the body budget check. Breath first, then 3 brief scans, fuel, rest, motion. If fuel is low, you sip water and eat something with protein. If rest is ragged, you note it and refuse to make identity-sized decisions today. If motion is missing, you do 60 seconds of deliberate movement. Tiny deposits stabilize the ledger so your thinking has a fair courtroom. A story you'll recognize in pieces. Samira is a founder walking into a pitch meeting that could extend her runway. The night before, she slept like a tourist in a loud hotel, 3 hours, maybe 4. She paced at dawn, skipped breakfast, and told herself she'd be fine because adrenaline is a friend. By 10 a.m., Her hands shook around the coffee cup. The investor's assistant emailed, "We need to start 5 minutes late." Her brain translated the delay into doom and the doom into a narrative about her worth. She felt the old yank to fix her feelings by over-explaining the product. Instead, she pressed the brake you've been building. Breath, 4 in, 4 hold, 6 out. Body budget check. Fuel, empty. Rest, low. Motion, tight. She walked to the hallway fountain, filled her bottle, ate the almond bar she kept for moments like this, and did 20 slow calf raises while reading her one-sentence channel under her breath. 90 seconds later, her pulse was still high, but the edges of the room returned. She had not solved the pitch. She had purchased a fair courtroom. Let your jaw unclench and feel the weight of your tongue lower. Scan your eyes across the room and let them land on something still. Anxiety narrows, you widen. When you widen, perspective gets room to stand up. That's where the 3-perspective reframe lives. It's simple to say and gorgeous in effect. After the pause and the budget check, you tell the story 3 ways: inside you, beside you, beyond you. Inside you means you name your felt sense and the meaning you're assigning. Beside you means you tell it as a neutral narrator would, with plain facts anyone could verify. Beyond you means you speak from the vantage point of future you, 3 months out, who has learned from this moment and is oddly fond of your current self. The reframe doesn't erase fear, it dilutes its monopoly and returns choice to your hands. Walk it with me. Imagine you've just received feedback that your work missed the mark. Inside you, my chest is heavy, I feel heat in my face, I'm thinking I'm not cut out for this. Beside you, a colleague said the deliverable didn't match the brief and asked for 2 changes by Friday. Beyond you, in 3 months, I remember this as the week I learned to ask for examples before building. I used the feedback to ship a cleaner version and clarified expectations. Feel what shifts in your body when you add the other 2 lenses. Often the breath lengthens without effort. Often your shoulders drop a fraction. You've changed the story's chemistry by swapping a single protagonist for a trio of perspectives, and the scene stops feeling like a verdict. A micro drill to make the body budget check automatic. Set a quiet timer for 1 minute. Sit or stand with your feet flat. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. Whisper fuel. If hungry or dry, take 1 sip now or plan the nearest minute you'll eat. Whisper rest. If you slept poorly, say no identity decisions today out loud to preempt the urge to catastrophize. Whisper motion. Roll your shoulders back. Flex your hands open and closed 5 times. Stand and sit once. The whole drill takes 60 seconds. You've told your nervous system you are a trustworthy caretaker. Trust lowers the alarm faster than bravado. Let your palms face down on your thighs or the table and feel the texture of fabric or wood. Hear the closest sound, your breath, a fan, distant traffic. Sense the temperature on the skin under your collar. Each cue says, you are here, this moment is local. When moments are local, problems get small enough to touch. When you can touch them, you can move them. Back to Samira. She sat in the lobby and tried the 3-perspective reframe. Inside, my stomach is knotting, I'm thinking the delay means disrespect. Beside, the meeting moved 5 minutes. The deck is 15 slides. I have a 10-minute story and 5 minutes for questions. Beyond, 3 months from now, I'll remember that the investor was late because his kid was sick. This meeting taught me to open with the problem story, not the feature list. She felt silly doing it at first, so she practiced under her breath like a secret. Silly is just the sensation of new wiring. She walked into the room and opened with a sentence that aligned with her channel. In the next 10 minutes, I'll show you how our product cuts onboarding time in half for teams of 20 and the one metric that proves it. The pause bought space, the budget check bought baseline, and the reframe bought posture. The meeting was still complex. She was simply more herself inside it. If you want to deepen the groove right now, try a 30-second reframe whisper. Picture a situation that's been buzzing at the edge of your attention. Inhale 4, hold, exhale 6. Say the inside line exactly as it is without cleaning it up. Then say the beside line like a news brief. Then speak as future you who has already metabolized the moment. Notice where in your body each voice lands. Inside may live in your throat. Beside often sits behind the eyes. Beyond tends to warm the space behind your sternum. You're mapping your internal auditorium so you can choose who holds the mic. The science stays humble but useful. When you move, sip, and breathe, you nudge your autonomic nervous system toward balance. When you translate a hot thought into neutral facts and then into a compassionate future frame, you recruit language and memory networks that inhibit impulsive action. Your reticular activating system, primed by your channel sentence, starts filtering for evidence that serves the outcome rather than feeding the fear. Neuroplasticity isn't a classroom lecture. It's this: single sentences repeated in the heat until they become the new default. Pause again. Let your gaze soften into peripheral vision so you see more of the room at once. Touch your thumb to each fingertip slowly, feeling the tiny ridges. If you can, stand for a moment and sway gently, shifting weight from heel to toe. These sensoromotor notes are not detours, they're checkpoints on the highway back to steadiness. The more fluent you become in your body's language, the faster your mind follows suit. Conflict will test your reframe, so let's rehearse. A teammate sends a message with a sharp edge. Why is this late again? Old patterns might sprint to apology or counterattack. New patterns begin with the body budget check. You notice your dry mouth and pour water. You resist the temptation to write your worth into this reply. Then the three-perspective reframe. Inside, tight chest, I feel accused. I'm thinking they don't see my effort. Beside, they asked why a deliverable is late. Beyond, in 3 months, I remember this as the moment I learned to state constraints and ask for alignment. The reply that follows is shorter and kinder. You're right to want speed. I'm balancing X and Y for today. I can deliver A by 4 p.m. if you need B. We'll need to drop C, which serves best. Clarity doesn't just calm you, it gives people something to agree with. Breathe and feel the coolness at the tip of your nose on the in-breath and the warmth on the out. Let your sit bones spread slightly into the chair. Loosen the muscles around your eyes. As your body shifts, remind yourself you are the awareness, not the emotion. You are the room, not the voice echoing inside it. The voice is allowed. It is not in charge. Add a small daily ritual that cements this chapter, the budgeted reframe note. In the morning, write one line that names your budget status and one line that names your preferred perspective. Slept 6 hours, a bit low. Today I speak from beside before I speak from inside. Or well rested. Today I'll let beyond pick my first verb. You aren't fixing your day, you're setting its posture. Posture is easier to maintain than to invent from scratch when pressure hits. There will be days when the inside voice is the only one you can hear. That's not failure, that's weather. On those days, you run the 90-second weather rule, do the body budget check, and then borrow the beyond voice directly. Future me says, you've survived this texture before. We'll pick one clean sentence and carry it through the next hour. If that feels artificial, remember that much of anxiety's script is also learned and repeated. You're simply choosing the author on purpose. One more scene to ground it. You're driving, late for an appointment, and traffic locks like teeth. Heat rises. Your hands press hard into the wheel. Inside, I'm furious I'm going to be judged. Beside, traffic is stopped. The clock says 8:47, the appointment is at 9, I'm 10 minutes away. Beyond, in 3 months I remember I called ahead, owned the delay, and the meeting still went fine. Budget check, you sip water and roll your shoulders. Then you run the clear channel you learned yesterday. Outcome, arrive with dignity. Constraint, 3 minutes to call. Verb, inform. You call, you breathe, you arrive as a person rather than as a tangle. The pause did not change the lights. It changed the driver. Return to your body now. Feel the skin at the base of your skull where it meets your neck. Let your breath lengthen by 1 count on the exhale. Imagine a quiet window inside your chest. Open a crack, air moving in and out without effort. This is your sanctuary room, not to escape life, but to meet it with steadier hands. Each time you use these tools, the room gets easier to enter. One day soon, you'll step into it between heartbeats. We'll close with the minute of triangulation, a practice that combines today's tools. Set a 1-minute timer. First 20 seconds, body budget check and 1 deposit, sip, stretch, or snack. Next 20 seconds, 3 perspective reframe in 3 short sentences, whispered or written. Final 20 seconds, clear channel, 1 outcome, 1 constraint, 1 verb. When the timer ends, act for 60 seconds in the direction you chose. Then record it in your pause ledger with a single line, budgeted, reframed, moved. This is how you build a nervous system that trusts you under heat. You don't need permission to reframe. You don't need perfect conditions to balance your budget. You need presence, honesty, and the smallest proof. Anxiety will keep trying to sell you views from 1 narrow window. You will keep walking the hallway to 3 windows and then stepping outside for air. Bit by bit, you'll feel the difference not just in your behavior, but in your identity. You are not a person who spirals by default. You are a person who pauses, checks the budget, and chooses a generous angle. You are the awareness that recruits the body and the mind to move in one direction with quiet power. Anxiety loves to make everything urgent at once. That's how you end up moving fast but going nowhere, collecting half-finished tasks like loose threads on a sleeve. Today you'll learn to sort the noise the moment after you pause so your action lands exactly where it matters. Think of this chapter as building the control panel for your day. You'll install 2 instruments, the 2-minute triage board and the emotional alchemy ladder. One points your energy toward leverage. The other turns raw emotion into usable fuel. Together, they keep you from spending a whole afternoon extinguishing candles while a single fuse burns unseen. Start with your body because your body is the doorway. Inhale through your nose for 4, pause, and let a slow 6-count exhale melt through your ribs. Notice the cool air along your nostrils, the slight tightening around your throat releasing on the out-breath. Feel the chair hold your weight. Place your tongue lightly on the roof of your mouth. These tiny adjustments tell your nervous system, we are safe enough to choose. Safety is the precondition for strategy. Without it, even smart plans look like escape routes. Here's your first instrument. The 2-minute triage board happens on a single sticky note or the back of a receipt. No apps, no art. Right after the pause, you draw an invisible line down the page in your mind and speak 3 quiet sentences you can write if you want. Outcome, constraint, smallest proof. Then you add 1 more sentence that turns the dial from reaction to contribution. Who does this serve right now? The board is fast because speed matters. It's also precise because precision saves you from the buzz that masquerades as progress. Anxiety loves breadth. Triage loves depth. You will choose depth. A story to fasten this to the bone. Malik manages a small design team. On a rainy Tuesday, his Slack lights up like a pinball machine. A client wants a last-minute revision. His director asks for a weekly summary. A teammate pings with a blocker. Malik feels the familiar voltage along his forearms, the hover of his fingers over the keys, the tug to answer everything immediately. He pauses. 4 in, 4 hold, 6 out. Then he pulls his triage board into view, literally a crumpled note beside the trackpad. Outcome: move the most important thing by 1 step. Constraint: 30 minutes before my 11 a.m. stand-up. Smallest proof: ship a 1-paragraph status on the critical feature. Who it serves: team clarity, not my image. The choice becomes obvious. Unstick the teammate with a simple, public status that answers 2 questions. He types the paragraph, tags the right people, proposes a micro-decision, and only then replies to the other messages with a clean line about when he'll get to them. 30 minutes later, the storm feels smaller, not because the world got kinder, but because he aimed his force. Let your shoulders lower by a notch. Feel the fabric along your collarbones. Listen for the nearest hum, computer, fan, the tiny whoosh of air in the vent. As you widen your senses, remember that attention is a currency. You're budgeting it on purpose. The triage board teaches you to spend it where returns compound. You're not dodging responsibility. You're sequencing it so your work becomes a story instead of a scramble. Now the second instrument, the emotional alchemy ladder. Emotion is energy with a headline. Alchemy is the craft of refining raw material into something useful. The ladder is how you climb from a flooded state to a focused one without pretending you're already calm. It has 4 rungs you'll feel rather than memorize. First rung: name the weather out loud in a sentence that includes your body. Tight chest, hot cheeks, mind fast. Second rung: legitimize the signal by stating what the emotion is trying to protect. This surge wants to guard my credibility and my care for the work. Third rung: leverage the energy by attaching it to a value and a verb. I turn this surge into clarity, ask 1 question. Fourth rung: lock it in with a sensory anchor. Feel the cool glass in my hand, breathe long on the exhale. Name, legitimize, leverage, lock. You won't climb to serenity in 1 breath. You'll climb to usefulness. That is enough. Try it right now. Think of a conversation that makes your stomach tighten. Whisper the weather. Don't polish it. Now give the surge credit for what it's trying to guard. This is not indulgence, it's accuracy. The nervous system is more likely to settle when it's seen and respected than when it's dismissed. Next, choose your value and your verb. If your value is honesty, maybe your verb is ask. If your value is service, maybe it's clarify. Finally, pick an anchor your body can touch this second. The cool rim of a mug, the pressure of your feet against the floor, the slow weight of your breath filling your back. Feel it for 2 counts longer than you want to. You just climbed a rung or 2. That movement is the work. A different scene to keep this grounded. Priya is in a relationship where both partners are striving and tired. On Friday evening, her partner says, "You were absent all week," and a wave of hot shame tries to pull her under. The old script would either defend, "You don't see what I did," or collapse, "You're right, I'm awful." She pauses. She runs the ladder quietly. Weather, warmth in her cheeks, a press behind her eyes, the urge to explain. Protection, the surge is guarding her need to be appreciated and not misunderstood. Leverage, value of connection, verb, name. Anchor, the cool tile under her heels and 1 long exhale. She says, "I hear you, I don't want to argue, I want to understand where you felt me missing. Give me 1 moment that mattered this week." The conversation shifts from courtroom to table. There is still ache. There is now traction. The pause turned a reflex into a bridge. Notice your breath again. Imagine your ribs opening like the slats of a wooden fan. On the out-breath, Feel your sit bones settle into the chair as if the chair is a friendly dock and you are a boat coming to rest. The more intimately you feel your body, the less power the first story has to drag you. You aren't numbing, you're regrounding so choice can reappear. Let's braid the triage board and the ladder into a micro-practice you can run between meetings or between text messages. It's called the 60-second leverage loop. You pause and breathe 4-4-6. You climb one or two rungs of the ladder, name the weather, tie it to a value and a verb. You ask the triage board question, who does this serve right now? And you write one sentence or take one action that proves service in the next minute. Then you record a single line in your pause ledger, weather named, value named, act served. The loop is small on purpose. Small loops repeat. Repetition becomes identity. You might wonder how this differs from yesterday's tools. The clear channel gave you outcome, constraint, verb. The two-question compass gave you control and proof. Today's triage board adds the social dimension. Who does this serve? So your action becomes a gift rather than a performance. The ladder lets you carry your emotion with dignity so you don't spend energy hiding it. When you stop hiding, you get all that energy back for movement. Check in with your senses again. Rest your palms on your thighs and feel the temperature under your hands. Rotate your neck gently left and right, stopping before any pinch. Let your gaze widen so you see the corners of the room. If you can stand and feel the pull of gravity along your calves. These are yeses to your body. Your body returns the favor with steadier signals. The brain science remains a quiet partner. When you name the weather, you route sensation through language networks that dampen limbic fire. When you legitimize what your feeling is trying to protect, you reduce internal conflict, the part of you that would otherwise waste cycles arguing. When you tie surge to value and verb, you recruit motor planning. When you anchor with sensation, you recruit parasympathetic tone. The triage board service question works on the reticular activating system like a magnet. It attracts relevant cues and repels drama. You become easier for other people to work with not because you dim yourself, but because you channel yourself. Another story, corporate and messy. Leela is the only woman in a technical leadership meeting. Two colleagues begin debating a deployment timeline. Voices tighten. Someone says, "This is simple, just work harder this sprint." Leela feels heat rise under her collar. Her urge is to snap a reply that would be right and would be costly. She pauses. She climbs the ladder privately. Weather, hot neck, quick pulse, urge to prove. Protection, fairness, and the team's sustainability. Leverage, value of truth-telling, verb frame. Anchor, the cool condensation on her water bottle. She moves to the triage board. Who does this serve right now? The team's long-term velocity. She picks the smallest proof. Name the trade-off in one sentence and ask for a decision. She says, if we compress this sprint, we can hit Friday and we'll likely pay with increased defects next week. Do we want speed or stability? The room exhales. Someone writes the question on the whiteboard. They choose stability. Layla didn't win a debate. She convened a decision. The pause became leadership. Breathe again and feel your belly soften on the exhale, even if by a hair. Tighten your hands into gentle fists for a count of 2, then release until the fingers feel warm. Notice the temperature of the air on your cheeks. If your jaw has crept up toward your ears, let it drop. Sometimes the most sophisticated act is allowing your face to soften. Your drill for the next 24 hours is deliberately simple and slightly playful. It's called pocket ladders. Every time you feel a surge, you whisper or write a 4-part sentence in a single line. Weather is X. It's guarding Y. I will serve Z by verb. Anchor with A, fill the letters with your reality in under 10 seconds. Do not strive for poetry, strive for contact. If you can't find the value, borrow one from yesterday's anchored outcome sentence. If you can't think of an anchor, touch the nearest object and feel its texture as if your fingertips have tiny eyes. The point is not eloquence. The point is that your nervous system hears a consistent, compassionate command. On days when your mind refuses to play along, you'll use a variant, the ladder in reverse. Start with the anchor. Feel the desk grain under your palm. Then pick a value you care about more than looking smart, kindness, clarity, courage. Only then name what the surge is guarding. Finally, speak the weather last to prove to your body that you can feel it without drowning. Reverse climbing is not cheating, it's wisdom. Some days the bottom rung is slippery. That's okay. There are other ways up. You will inevitably meet a moment where everything in you insists there is no time to pause. The meeting is live. The question is direct. Your name is called. Paradoxically, this is the perfect place for the fastest version of everything you're learning. It has a name you'll like, the 3-word switch. Whether value, verb, 3 words spoken inside your chest. Tight service, ask. Hot clarity, frame. Afraid, truth, name. It takes less than a breath. It buys you the inch you need to move cleanly. You won't always remember. When you do, you'll feel like you own the room from the quiet center, not from the loud edges. One last scene before we close, small but alive. You're alone at your kitchen table on a Sunday night, the week stretching in front of you like a dark road. The calendar squares look like windows in a building you aren't sure you want to enter. Your stomach feels fizzy with dread. You pause. You climb one rung of the ladder, fluttery belly, guarding competence, serve clarity, anchor mug warmth. You open your notebook and run the 2-minute triage board. Outcome, begin the week with one clean move. Constraint, 10 minutes. Smallest proof, draft a first sentence for Monday's most important message. Who it serves, my team and my sanity. You write the sentence. The road ahead doesn't change color. Your headlights just reached further. Anxiety turns down from a siren to a background radio. You stand up and rinse the mug, hands in warm water, reminders that life happens in temperatures and textures, not in abstract futures. Take one more breath, deep enough that your back, not just your chest, expands. As you breathe out, imagine you're letting the exhale carry a handful of static out and away. Place a hand over your sternum and feel the subtle thud under your palm. Say quietly, I am the awareness, not the emotion. This is not a mantra for escape. It is a way of standing. When you stand here, your tools are nearby, a scrap of paper, a ladder in your mouth, a breath that lengthens the room, a question that serves. This is not about perfection. It is about precision and kindness under pressure. For the next day, live a small experiment. Before you open any app or reply to any ping, run a single leverage loop. Pause, ladder one rung, triage one outcome, serve one person you can picture, prove it in 60 seconds, ledger it in a sentence. Repeat when you can, ignore when you can't, return when you remember. That's the rhythm of change. Neuroplasticity doesn't ask for grand gestures, it asks for honest repetitions under real heat. You are not someone who must be carried by your emotions. You are someone who carries them with care and directs them with a steady hand. You are not the storm that visits your chest. You are the sky that welcomes weather and decides when to plant, when to sail, when to sit on the porch and drink water in the shade. Keep the board near, keep the ladder close, keep your breath yours. Anxiety doesn't just speed you up, it scatters you. Your attention splinters into brilliant shards, each reflecting a different should. You start 5 things and finish none, then label yourself lazy when in fact you're overloaded by competing alarms. Today is about reclaiming a single beam of attention and turning it into momentum you can feel. You'll build 2 tools that make focus a posture, not a mood. The yes filter gate and the single target sprint. One protects your bandwidth before it bleeds out. The other converts that protected bandwidth into clean forward motion. Together, they turn your pause into a perimeter and your energy into a straight line. Start with your body. Inhale through your nose for a slow count of 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 6 and notice the way your ribs soften under your shirt. Feel the temperature on your cheeks. Let your eyes widen slightly so you catch the edges of the room, not just the screen. Your nervous system reads this as safe enough to choose. Without that signal, even the strongest intentions collapse into reflex. Here's the first tool. The yes filter gate is a sentence you keep by the door of your day. When a request arrives, email, meeting, invite, internal impulse, you run it through 2 questions and 1 rule. The questions: does this serve my anchored outcome today? And if I say yes, what am I saying no to in the next 2 hours? The rule: if the no is unclear, the answer is not yet. This is not about becoming rigid or selfish. It's about being honest with the physics of time. Every yes has a cost. You pay either in focus or in integrity. The gate lets you pay on purpose. A story to plant the gate in real ground. Tasha leads operations for a non-profit. Her days used to dissolve into emergencies that were urgent for someone and unimportant for the mission. On a Wednesday, a board member texted mid-morning, "Can you review this grant draft today?" Tasha felt the old tug to prove reliability. Her jaw tightened, her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She paused. Breath in, hold, long exhale. She looked at the sticky note on her monitor where she'd written her anchored outcome for the day. "Today I serve by finalizing the event logistics checklist for Friday." Yes filter gate. Does the grant review serve that? Not directly. If she says yes, what is she saying no to? She'd be saying no to finishing the checklist before vendors closed. The rule answered for her, not yet. Her reply was precise and generous. "I want this to land well. I'm committed to shipping the event checklist by 4 p.m. If the draft can wait until 4:30, I'll give it a clean pass then. Otherwise, I can recommend someone who has bandwidth now." The text came back, "4:30 works." Saying not yet didn't reduce her reliability, it concentrated it. Let your shoulders drop an inch. Feel the weight of your feet inside your shoes, each toe pressing lightly as if testing the ground. Listen for a faint sound, a fan, the distant rumble of traffic, even the whisper of your own breath. These sensory notes aren't decoration. They are the wiring that keeps your prefrontal cortex online so you can run the gate with the honesty it deserves. The second tool translates the saved bandwidth into motion, the single target sprint. It's a 25-minute burst directed at one defined target, followed by a 3-minute recovery and a 2-minute review. There are 3 elements that make it different from generic focus sessions. First, you carve a micro-brief, one sentence that states the deliverable at a level a colleague could verify. Draft the first paragraph of the client update, naming the decision and the trade-off. Second, you set friction to 0 before you start, document open to the exact line, notifications off, water within reach, and the first verb chosen. Third, you end with a receipt, a visible artifact or a single sentence in your pause ledger that proves you moved. The brain craves receipts because they puncture the fog. Try a tiny version now. Pick a target you can touch without opening another app. Inhale 4, hold, exhale 6. Microbrief it out loud. Write 2 sentences summarizing the outcome I want from this hour. Choose the first verb, write, start the clock for 5 minutes if 25 feels impossible. Move. When you stop, whisper the receipt, 2 sentences written. Notice what your body does when you say the proof. Often the breath deepens by itself. That ease is not pride, it's calibration. Your system is learning that effort can become evidence quickly. There's a subtle sabotage that will try to sneak past your gate, the deco yes. It looks noble, it feels helpful, it lines up with your identity as a generous person. The cost is invisible in the moment and heavy by evening. To catch deco yeses, pair your yes filter gate with a phrase that names the trade in plain terms. If I say yes to this, I am saying no to finishing X, which serves Y. Say it out loud even if you're alone. Your ears are part of your nervous system. Hearing the trade shifts, choices from abstract to embodied. Another story, this time in a relationship, because focus bleeds there too. Devin and Myra share a small apartment and a large calendar. Devin's old pattern was to be always available, which quietly meant always resentful. On Saturday morning, Myra asked, "Can you help me reorganize the closet today?" Devin had planned a long-delayed creative sprint on a personal project that feeds his sanity. He felt the old heat rise, the choice between disappointing Myra and disappointing himself. Paused, breath in, hold, exhale. Yes, filter gate. Does this serve his anchored outcome? Not today. If he says yes, what is he saying no to in the next 2 hours? The one thing that keeps him from grinding into the week resentful? Not yet. He tried a new sentence that has changed the shape of their weekends. I want to help, and I want to keep my creative window sacred. I can give you 90 minutes after lunch, or I can book a task rabbit this afternoon. Which serves you better? Myra chose after lunch. Devin kept his sprint and still showed up. Boundaries are not walls, they are doors with clear hours. Check in with your senses again. Feel the skin along the bridge of your nose. Let your tongue rest on the roof of your mouth and notice a microscopic release at the base of your skull. Rotate your wrists gently and feel the warmth gather in your hands. Each sensation proves you're in a body, not just in a browser of thoughts. Bodies decide cleaner. There's a piece of brain mechanics here worth keeping simple. Your reticular activating system filters for what you tell it matters. When you write a micro-brief and speak a single verb, you prime that filter. As you move through your sprint, your brain begins to spotlight details that match your aim and dim details that belong to other people's agendas. Over weeks, this priming becomes the default. Focus stops being a heroic effort and becomes a tuned environment inside your head. Let's add a drill that locks the gate and the sprint into your morning. It's called the RAS Spotlight Ritual. Before you open any inbox, you breathe 446 twice. You write one micro-brief in a single sentence. You speak it out loud and underline the verb. You visualize the first 3 motions your hands will make: open file, type header, write first line. Then you do those motions like a short choreography. The whole ritual takes 90 seconds. It tells your nervous system, this is our channel. Rituals beat motivation on days when motivation refuses to show. An anecdote from a different arena: a university student named Kai. Midterms week turned his apartment into a panic chamber. Every subject shouted. He tried to study by shuffling, which is to say, by avoiding choosing. He learned the RAS Spotlight Ritual and the single target sprint in the same afternoon. The next morning he wrote, outline 3 key arguments for the sociology essay. First verb, outline. He put his phone in airplane mode and turned its screen down, then pictured his fingers typing the first words. 25 minutes later, he had a rough skeleton. The receipt said so in 1 line, 3 arguments outlined. He repeated the cycle for statistics, solve 5 practice problems with notes. By evening, the apartment was still small, but his mind was spacious. He didn't study everything. He studied what mattered, and his body believed him because he had proof. Breathe again and feel the coolness on the inhale, the slight warmth on the exhale. Let your gaze land on something steady. If you can, stand up and shift your weight from heel to toe, then toe to heel, like you're gently rocking a boat into balance at a dock. These small movements tell your system that you can move and remain steady, that you don't need to freeze to focus. A common fear will whisper that gaits and sprints will make you rigid, that you'll miss serendipity. The truth is kinder. Gaits prevent you from drowning so you can notice the river's pattern. Sprints create pockets of intensity that heighten your sensitivity to signal. Serendipity visits people who are moving, not people who are spinning. When your day has shape, you can greet surprises without resenting them. Let's stitch in a 2-minute exercise that turns your yes filter into language anyone can hear. The clear no formula. It has 3 parts in a single human sentence. You name your commitment, you offer a boundary, and you propose a path. I'm committed to shipping X by Y. I don't have bandwidth to do Z before then. Here, S what I can offer, A by time T or a connection to B. Write that sentence now for a real request you expect. Say it once out loud. Feel the flinch in your chest and breathe through it. The flinch is old training that equated boundaries with rejection. You're rewriting that training with grace. Another scene to test the edge. You have a manager who treats your calendar like an open buffet. On Monday, 3 meetings appear during your anchored sprint block. Your stomach tightens the way it did in middle school when plans changed without your consent. You pause, breath in, hold, exhale. You run the gate. Do these serve today's anchored outcome? Not directly. If you say yes, what are you saying no to? The one deliverable that rescues the week from chaos. You write a note that carries the weight of your new posture. I'm protecting a block 911 for the Q3 brief. It ensures we hit Friday's decision. If the meetings are flexible, I propose 1:33:00. If not, I'll send a 3-line update before noon to unblock any decisions. You do not apologize for protecting the block. You explain the service it creates. This is not rebellion, it is stewardship. Notice your breath again. Place a hand over your sternum and feel the warmth. With your other hand, trace a slow circle over your diaphragm like you're polishing a small window. Sense the calm on the out-breath. If it isn't calm, sense the texture of whatever is there. Flutter, weight, fizz. You are the awareness, not the emotion. You are the steward, not the swirl. Now deepen the single-target sprint with a tiny twist that keeps your brain engaged. The roadhead rule. Before each sprint, you name what must be true at minute 10, not just at minute 25. If your 25-minute target is draft the opening paragraph, your minute 10 roadhead is write 3 messy lines. Your brain gets a near landmark so it doesn't wander off in search of novelty. At minute 10, you check. If you're off track, you shrink the target rather than shame yourself. Shrinking is strategy. Shame burns fuel you need for movement. A final story in a loud environment. Omar works in customer support. The queue never goes quiet. He used to numb the noise with constant multitasking that left him missing tiny details that mattered. He began using micro-sprints even in the chaos. Resolve 1 ticket end-to-end with a customer note that anticipates tomorrow's question. First verb, resolve. He set a 2-minute roadhead. Draft the note first. 20 minutes later, he had 2 tickets closed and 1 customer who sent a thank you because the note answered the next question before it was asked. Omar's anxiety didn't disappear. It transformed into courtesy. That courtesy, applied repeatedly, became reputation. Reputation created slack in his day because people trusted his judgment. Focus is kindness in motion. Let your jaw unclench. Let your shoulders drop once more. Hear the next sound that arrives, even if it's your breath. You're building a nervous system that trusts your gait and a mind that believes your brief. Each repetition lays myelin, insulation on the circuits you want firing when life is loud. You don't need inspiration. You need choreography you can do under heat. Your practice for the next 24 hours is the Gaetan Sprint Trio. 3 times, run the Yes Filter gate on a real request. 3 times, commit to a single target sprint with a 10-minute roadhead and an end receipt. Each time, write a single line in your pause ledger, said not yet to, sprinted on, receipt. You'll see in ink that you are a person who protects and delivers. That shift is not theoretical. It lives in the way your breath feels at 4 p.m., in the way your shoulders sit lower at dinner, in the way you hear your name without flinching when someone calls from the hallway. Remember, the point is not to strangle your spontaneity. The point is to stop letting anxiety spray your energy across 10 surfaces. You are building a beam and aiming it. You are the awareness choosing the channel. You are the person who says, "Not yet," without closing your heart. You are the person who sprints cleanly and stops cleanly, who leaves receipts for your future self like breadcrumbs out of the forest. One last breath. Inhale 4, hold, exhale 6. Feel the chair, the floor, the air. Whisper, "I am the awareness, not the emotion." Open your eyes to the corners of the room. Pick one small verb for the next minute and do it. Then carry that straightness into the next hour. Anxiety will keep offering a dozen directions. You will keep walking one step at a time, and the ground will meet your foot exactly where it needs to. Anxiety spikes hardest around other people. Deadlines sting, but faces burn. You want to be kind, you want to be competent, and in the space between those two wants, your boundaries fray. You nod while your stomach tightens. You agree while your breath goes shallow. You over-explain until your jaw aches. Today you'll learn to make boundaries that breathe, kind, clean, and enforceable without drama. We'll build 2 frameworks that turn courage into choreography, the boundary bridge and the 3-beat repair. The first lets you say no without closing the relationship. The second shows you how to fix the moment when you miss your boundary or someone bumps it hard. With these, your pause won't just be private, it will shape the air between you and others. Start with the body because the body sets the tone before the words ever arrive. Inhale through your nose for 4, pause, and let a slow 6-count exhale brush along the back of your throat as if you were fogging a window. Feel your ribs slide under your shirt. Notice the weight of your tongue settling down. Let your shoulders drop 1 finger width. You are telling your nervous system, "We are safe enough to speak." Safety is not the same as comfort. It's the space where truth can land without shattering. Here's the boundary bridge. Think of a bridge with 3 spans. Name the commitment, state the limit, offer a path. Spoken in one human sentence, it sounds like this: "I'm committed to X. I don't have capacity for Y. Here's a way I can help Z. The order matters." Lead with service so the amygdala in the other person's head hears ally, not enemy. State the limit plainly, no footnotes, no apology velvet around it. Offer a path that honors your time and their aim. Anxiety tries to make boundaries a courtroom where you must win. The bridge turns it into a walkway where both can cross. A story to anchor it. Armin is a senior engineer who became the team's unofficial fixer. Every quick question found him. Each yes felt generous in the moment and expensive by nightfall. On a Thursday, a colleague messaged, "Do you have 10 minutes to debug something?" Armin's forearms tensed. His cursor hovered over sure. He paused, 446 breath, shoulders softening a fraction. He pictured his anchored outcome sentence on a sticky note. "Today I serve by shipping the deploy plan." Boundary bridge. I'm committed to getting the deploy plan stable by 2 p.m. I don't have capacity to debug this right now. If you paste the error and steps you tried, I'll add a fix note at 2:30 or tag the right person. He hit send and felt the familiar guilt twitch. He breathed through the twitch and returned to the plan. At 2:35, he scanned the paste, wrote a clear suggestion, and tagged the teammate who owned that module. In a week, something new happened. People still asked, but they asked better. The bridge didn't just protect Armin, it retrained the village. Notice your surroundings for one full breath. The temperature on your cheeks, the chair at your back, a single quiet sound, the fan, the hum of a light, the whisper of traffic. When you let the room into your senses, you loosen the chokehold of imagined outcomes. Boundaries are decided in the body first. The words simply announce the decision. Boundaries will always stir a flinch. The flinch is old training telling you love and limits can't coexist. So you'll build a tiny reflex that makes the flinch useful. It's called the signal then ask. You name the signal you feel, one word, not a story. Then you ask a small clarifying question that moves the moment from ambiguity into alignment. Feeling squeezed, what's the single outcome you need by today? Or feeling scattered, if I deliver a now and be tomorrow, does that work? The ask buys specifics. Specifics steal fuel from fear. If the other person can't or won't clarify, you've learned something in seconds that used to take you hours of resentment to discover. Try a micro drill now. Picture a real request you half expect today. Inhale 4, hold, exhale 6. Whisper your signal then ask sentence once. Feel the way it sits in your mouth. If it feels stiff, shrink it and slow it. The goal isn't theatrical bravado. It's a sentence you can speak with a soft jaw in a noisy hallway. There will be moments when you blow it, when you say yes because the room's heat hooked your old wiring, and 30 minutes later you realize the cost. That's where the 3-beat repair enters. Shame says you can't go back. Repair says you must. The beats are simple: own, align, adjust. Own the miss without a novel. Align to the shared outcome. Adjust the plan with a concrete, smallest, wise change. Spoken, it sounds like, I overcommitted 5 minutes ago. I want us to get X right. Here S what I can do by Y, or I can help you find someone for Z. No excuses, no self-flagellation, no blame. You move the moment forward without abandoning yourself. A relationship scene, because these tools belong at the kitchen sink as much as in the stand-up. Lena and Eli share childcare and creative work. Lena's default is to overfunction. Eli's default is to freeze when overwhelmed. On Tuesday night, Eli asked, "Can you read my draft before bed?" Lena had promised herself a quiet hour for her painting. She paused and felt the tug to be the hero. Boundary bridge. I'm committed to you getting clean feedback. I don't have the brain for it tonight. I can give it a thoughtful pass at 7 a.m. or read the first 2 paragraphs now and 1 question to sharpen. Eli picked the morning. They went to bed with fewer words and more peace. 2 days later, Lena fumbled. She said yes to an extra pickup to avoid a tense conversation. The resentment simmered. She noticed, breathed, and ran the 3-beat repair. I said yes earlier to avoid conflict. I want us to share the load fairly. Can we swap Thursday so I can keep my studio block? If not, I'll arrange a sitter. The repair didn't feel romantic. It felt adult. Anxiety loosened each time they crossed the bridge. Scan your body again. Is your jaw quietly clamped? Let the molars part. Feel your hands, heat in one palm more than the other, a tiny pulse at the base of your thumb. Draw air in and imagine your breath widening your back like a curtain opening. The simple act of sensing gives your words ballast. People hear the difference between a boundary spoken from panic and a boundary spoken from presence. Now wire the bridge and repair into your day with a small practice that requires no privacy. It's called the draft-in breath. Before you answer a request, you take 1 breath and draft your bridge in your head with 3 commas. Committed, limit, path. You exhale and speak the sentence. If the person pushes, you repeat the limit once and point to the path. If they push again, you name the trade-off in plain terms and invite a decision they can own. Saying yes now means delaying X, which risks Y. Do you want speed or quality? You are not cornering them, you're inviting them into the reality you already live in. Another story to give your mouth a model. A director named Kira walked into a planning meeting where everyone spoke in confident half-facts. The team wanted to pull a launch forward by 2 weeks to make a splash. Kira felt the heat in her neck. Old Kira would have argued, which polarized the room and drained the day. Paused Kira softened her exhale, set both feet flat, and used signal then ask. Feeling squeezed, what outcome are we unwilling to compromise? The room named adoption quality. Boundary bridge followed. I'm committed to adoption quality. I don't have capacity to staff the extra QA hours this sprint. Path I can offer. We hold the date, ship a beta to 5 customers, or we keep scope and pick a later date. Which serves the outcome? The team argued less because they'd heard their priority out loud. They chose the beta. Kira didn't win, she hosted clarity. On a different afternoon, Kira messed up. She accepted a speaking slot on top of her team's crunch because the invite flattered her. 2 hours later, her stomach knotted at the calendar. 3-beat repair, I overcommitted. I want to protect the sprint. I can decline the talk or give it next month. If the organizers need this week, I'll help find another speaker. The organizer chose next month. Kira's team heard the repair and trusted her more, not less. Leaders earn loyalty by making clean repairs faster than they make perfect choices. Take a long exhale and feel your sit bones root into the chair. The urge to justify may climb your throat when you practice. You are allowed to feel the urge. You are not required to obey it. You are the awareness, not the emotion. Speak from the awareness. Let the emotion ride in the passenger seat. To deepen your fluency, you'll add a quiet rehearsal ritual called mirror and mouth. In the mirror of your phone screen, you speak one bridge sentence and one repair sentence, as if talking to a colleague or partner. You watch your face for the moment you start to smile apologetically or tilt your head into apology. Then you try again with a relaxed jaw and neutral eyebrows. You are not performing. You are removing the static that comes from centuries of social conditioning telling you limits are rude. 2 minutes a day rewires not just your throat, but your posture. Anxiety will warn you that boundaries will cost you love or status. The truth is more textured. Boundaries cost you the relationships and arrangements that depend on your self-erasure. They earn you the ones that respect your dignity and rely on your steadiness. In teams, clear limits make you faster because decisions surface earlier. In families, clear limits make you kinder because resentment has fewer places to hide. You can be generous from overflow. You cannot be generous from depletion. Your pause ensures overflow returns. Return to sensation. Place one hand over your sternum and one over your navel. Breathe so both hands move, the upper slightly, the lower more. Feel warmth gather under your lower palm. On the exhale, whisper in your head, bridge, then repair, as if giving yourself the day's choreography. Turn your head slowly left and right and notice any slight pulling. Stop before strain and let a soft yes move through your neck. The body's yes makes the mouth's no easier to carry. Let's practice in a high-friction scenario. A boss who expects immediate responses. Your phone lights up at 8:13 p.m. Can you jump on now? Your stomach drops. Old you would grab the call out of fear. Paused you runs the draft in breath. Bridge, I'm committed to shipping the morning update that keeps us on track. I'm not available tonight. I can send a summary now and join at 9 a.m. or I can tag Alex who's online. If your boss replies sharply, You breathe, repeat the limit once, and offer the path again. If the pattern persists, you schedule a daylight conversation and use signal then ask to surface expectations. I'm feeling stretched by after-hours pings. What's the true emergency bar, and what outcomes need speed versus morning clarity? You aren't demanding comfort, you're designing reliability. A final scene in a quieter place. You're at a family dinner. A relative brings up a topic that always ends in tangles. Your chest tightens, your vision tunnels a hair. The old script tries to take the wheel, defend, explain, or disappear into your fork. You pause, exhale long, signal then ask, feeling tense, are you asking for my view or telling me yours? If they want a debate, you bridge. I'm committed to staying connected tonight. I won't argue this at dinner. I can talk about it on Sunday afternoon or listen now without engaging. If they push, you repair your own boundary if you slip, or you exit kindly. I'm stepping out to help in the kitchen. You didn't fix the family story, you rewrote your role inside it. That is transformation. As you close this chapter, notice your breath again all the way to the bottom. Feel the temperature of the air at your nostrils. Feel the chair as a trustworthy object that holds you without asking for anything. Let your gaze widen to include the corners of the room. Whisper inside your head, I am the awareness, not the emotion. You are not learning to be hard. You are learning to be clear. Clarity is kindness in a language your nervous system and your relationships can both hear. Your practice for the next 24 hours is simple and brave. Use one boundary bridge on a small request. Use one 3-beat repair when you notice you've drifted. Record each in your pause ledger with a single line. Bridge used, repair made. The ledger isn't a trial, it's a garden log. You are pruning and planting. It will look sparse at first. Then, almost suddenly, you'll look up and realize your days have edges. Your yes means yes, your no means not yet, and your body sits lower in the chair at night because it trusts you to keep the promises you make to it. One last breath, inhale 4, hold, exhale 6. Feel your feet, feel your hands, feel the quiet window behind your breastbone crack open a little more. Walk your next hour with a bridge in your pocket and a repair in your palm. Anxiety will still point at every face and ask you to earn your place. You'll smile with your eyes, soften your jaw, and answer with a sentence that carries both love and a line. And step by step, you'll become the kind of person whose presence is a boundary all by itself. Warm, steady, and unmistakably self-respecting. The loudest voice in your head isn't always the wisest, it's just the oldest. It learned its lines when you were small and scared, when survival meant predicting every bad outcome before it happened. That voice still thinks worry equals safety. Today you'll teach it a new job. We're going to rewire your self-talk so it stops being a heckler and becomes a spotter. Eyes on the weight, hands ready to help, quiet unless needed. You'll learn 2 frameworks that turn inner noise into guidance, the Tag-and-Tame method and the evidence board 3x3. One separates you from the swirl, the other replaces vague fear with verifiable data and a next move. Together, they'll make your pause echo inside your mind where it matters most. Start at the doorway of the body. Inhale for 4 through your nose and notice the cool thread of air slide along your nostrils. Hold gently as if balancing a glass on your ribcage. Exhale for 6 and feel your shoulders sink 1 grain of sand lower. Sense the weight of your tongue and the soft stretch of skin at the base of your neck. Safety first, then strategy. When your body hears safety, your prefrontal cortex lights up. That's where language turns from alarm into instruction. Here's the Tag-and-Tame method. It's built on a simple neurological truth. When you label a thought as a thought rather than as reality, you move activity from the threat circuits into language and control circuits. The method has 3 moves you'll do in one breath. First, tag the thought with the phrase, "I'm having the thought that," not to be clever, but to create 1 inch of space. Second, tame its tone by assigning a volume and a job. This thought is shouting at a 9-10. Its job is to protect my reputation. Third, downgrade the authority by choosing a stance, witness, coach, or scientist. From witness you observe, from coach you give 1 instruction, from scientist you test. Tag, tame, stance. It takes 5 seconds. It buys you a choice. A story to ground it. Myra leads a small team and a senior stakeholder drops a comment in a doc. This misses the point. In her chest, heat flares. In her head, the old script boots up. You always miss. You're about to be exposed. Her fingers rush to edit anything, everything. Instead, she pauses and runs Tag-and-Tame. I'm having the thought that I'm incompetent. Volume, loud, 8-10. Job trying to keep me from public embarrassment. Stance, scientist. From scientist, she writes a single question in the comment. Could you name the point you're not seeing addressed? I'll align the draft to it. The stakeholder replies with 2 sentences that change the target from vision to metrics. The work improves. The inner voice quiets not because Myra silenced it, but because she reassigned it. Let your eyes soften so peripheral vision widens. Catch the edges of the room without moving your head. Feel the temperature along your forearms, the cool or warm skim of air. Hear the faintest sound, distant traffic, a fridge hum, the whisper of your own breath. Each sense you name lowers the gain on the inner critic, because the critic feeds on abstraction and loses power in the presence of details. Now the second framework, the evidence board 3x3. Anxiety deals in what-ifs, wisdom deals in what-is. The board turns a foggy fear into 9 squares of clarity you can fill in under 2 minutes. Draw a grid on paper or in your mind, 3 columns, 3 rows. Top row is facts, things a camera could record. Middle row is influence, things you can move in the next 24 hours. Bottom row is signals, evidence you'll watch for to know if it's working. The 3 columns are worst, likely, and best. You fill 1 or 2 items per square, then ask, what's the smallest wise action that serves the likely facts box? You're not manifesting, you're calibrating. Try it quickly with a common spike. I'm going to bomb this presentation. Facts worst, slides unfinished, time is short. Facts likely, 2 slides need clarity, the rest are fine. Facts best, clean story, 1 strong question. Influence worst, panic edit everything. Influence likely, clarify 2 slides, rehearse opening sentence. Influence best, ask a colleague to sanity check. Signals worst, late night, heavy edits, scattered notes. Signals likely, 2 slides crisp, opening feels natural. Signals best, audience asks the question I planned. Smallest wise action, rehearse opening sentence twice, fix slide 3 headline, message Sam for a 5-minute check. The board doesn't promise victory, it gives the inner voice a job list. Loud fear hates clear paper. A brief micro drill so your mouth can say these tools without friction. Set a 1-minute timer. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. Whisper a sticky thought, I'll let everyone down. Tag it, I'm having the thought that, tame it. Volume 7-10, job is protection. Choose stance, coach. From coach, give 1 instruction. Name 1 person I can serve in 1 sentence today. Write the sentence. Then for 30 seconds, sketch a tiny 3x3 with just the likely column and pick the smallest wise action. Do it if you can. Your nervous system respects speed more than speeches. There's science under this that stays practical. Your negativity bias is a survival feature. It notices thorns before roses. Your reticular activating system then filters for more thorns because you just told it thorns matter. Tag-and-Tame interrupts that filter by renaming thorns as thoughts about thorns, which weakens the reflexive search pattern. The evidence board aims your filter at specifics, which makes your brain hunt for helpful cues instead of threats. Repetition makes this the default search mode. Neuroplasticity is less like magic and more like grooves worn by carts that pass the same path daily. Notice your jaw. If your molars are kissing, let them drift apart. Feel the fabric at your collarbones and the weight of your sit bones in the chair. Imagine the back of your ribcage expanding like a small umbrella on the inhale. On the exhale, picture dust settling on a windowsill inside your chest. You are writing calm notes to your nervous system. Calm notes make clear notes possible. Let's add a companion practice that turns self-critique into skill quickly, the 2% upgrade. After any task, especially one that stirred anxiety, you ask 2 lines only: what worked enough to keep, and what is the smallest 2% I'd upgrade next time? You do not write a post-mortem novel. You pick a single hinge. The 2% keeps the critic from generalizing, "I am bad," and trains it to specialize. Next time, swap the order of slides. That specialization builds tacit confidence, the kind that doesn't need pep talks because the hands remember. A scene in the wild. Jonah is a new manager and his first team meeting feels stiff. He walks home hearing only the critic, "You bored them, you shouldn't laid." He pauses at his door and runs Tag-and-Tame. "I'm having the thought that I'm not cut out for leadership." Volume 910, Job, Prevent Humiliation, Stance, Scientist. He sketches a fast 3x3, facts likely, agenda clear, energy low after lunch. Influence likely, open with 1 win, ask 1 question, cut 1 slide. Signals likely, 1 person speaks who usually doesn't. Smallest action, tomorrow, message the team. Next week we'll open with 1 customer win and end with 1 decision. Bring 1 sticky point. He also runs the 2% upgrade. Start with story, end with decision. A week later, the room warms by 5 degrees because rooms obey structure. Jonah's self-talk shifts from verdict to craft. Breathe again. Let your fingertips rub together lightly and feel the small ridges of skin. If you can, stand and stretch your arms overhead, then let them fall, noticing the temperature change along your forearms. These sensations keep you here, not trapped inside a theater that only plays catastrophes in your head. Sometimes the inner voice will throw one of its oldest tricks, perfection as safety. It will say, "If you can't do it right, wait." Delay dresses up as discipline. To counter it, you'll use the permission to proceed stamp. It's a literal phrase you say before starting, "Proceed at 70% clarity." Then you touch a physical object, pen, doorframe, mug, like stamping a document. This anchors the instruction in your motor system. Movement convinces the brain you are allowed. Allowed minds act, forbidden minds rehearse forever. Another scene, softer but no less sharp. Amya wants to send a message setting a boundary with a friend who frequently cancels. Her inner voice writes monologues and then shreds them. She tries the stamp. Proceed at 70% clarity. Touch mug. Tag-and-Tame the next spike. I'm having the thought that I'll lose the friendship. Volume 610, Job, Protect Belonging, Stance, Coach. Coach says, serve the relationship with 1 honest, kind sentence. Amya writes, I care about us, and last-minute changes are hard for me. Can we set plans we both protect, even if they're less frequent? She breathes, feels the mug's warmth, and hits send. The friendship either grows roots or reveals its limits. Both outcomes serve her dignity. Return to your senses. Place one palm over your sternum, one over your lower belly. Inhale so the lower hand moves first, then the upper. Exhale long enough to feel both hands drop together. Whisper inside, I am the awareness, not the emotion. Feel how those words land, maybe as a cool wind behind your forehead, maybe as a little space around your throat. That space is leadership. We'll weave gratitude into this, but not the poster version. Use gratitude in shadow, a lens for hard moments. Instead of listing only nice things, you ask, what skill or value is this difficulty training? Not to spiritualize pain, but to stop wasting it. After a tense call, your inner voice says, disaster, tag it. Then shadow, this trained my boundary sentence under pressure. After a messy draft, this trained my 2% upgrade I. Gratitude becomes grit with good posture. A quick drill to bind the tools together. The 90-second thought reset. First 30 seconds, breathe 4-4-6 and tag-and-tame one loud thought. Next 30, sketch the likely column of the evidence board and pick the smallest wise action. Last 30, write a 2% upgrade you'll apply immediately after acting. Then move for 60 seconds on that action. The reset doesn't promise calm, it manufactures traction. A high-stakes scene to prove this scales. You're interviewing for a role you want. The night before, your mind runs a highlight reel of your worst answers. Pause, tag-and-tame, I'm having the thought that I'll freeze. Volume 7:10, job, keep me from risk. Stance, coach. Coach says prime the first 10 seconds, build one bridge question. Evidence board, likely column, facts, I know my projects, the first moments are hardest. Influence, rehearse opener, prepare one clarifying question. Signals, breath lengthens after first answer. Smallest action, record yourself stating, in one sentence, here's how I think about X, then write one bridge. Could I clarify the constraints you care about most? You stamp, proceed at 70%. In the room, your heart still thumps. You feel the chair under your legs, you let your exhale brush your throat. When they ask a curveball, you use the coach stance live. Give me 10 seconds to think. I want to answer cleanly. 10 seconds is a lifetime in the brain's math. It brings the prefrontal online. You answer, not perfect, but exact. You leave with dignity because you coached yourself through, not around, the heat. Sense your environment again, the nearest color, the farthest sound, the pressure of your heels inside your shoes. These are your tethers. The mind's storms blow hard. Tethers keep you from sailing into old weather out of habit. There will be days when the thought tagging feels fake, when the evidence board looks like homework your anxious brain refuses to turn in. On those days, you lower the bar and raise the kindness. Tag just the verb, worrying. Tame just the volume, loud. Pick the smallest square on the board, likely influence, one action in 1 minute, do it. Record a single receipt in your pause ledger, tagged, acted, done. The ledger is not a judge, it's a map. Maps look blank before they look helpful. Keep drawing. To deepen identity, we'll add one more frame, the inner title. Give your mind a role you admire, not the critic, but the custodian of clarity or the trail guide. In the morning, you write, today my mind serves as trail guide. It points out loose rocks and also points to the path. Throughout the day, when the old voice shouts, you correct the title gently, trail guide, not town crier. Titles matter, names shape behavior. You are not arguing with your brain, you are promoting it. One last story to carry into tomorrow. Ray is a physician in a clinic where pace can break people. A patient encounter goes sideways, a colleague snaps in the hall. Ray's inner voice calls a code blue on her worth. In a storage room that smells of antiseptic and cardboard, she leans against a shelf, feels the cool metal at her shoulder, and breathes 4-4-6. Tag-and-Tame, I'm having the thought that I failed him. Volume 8:10, job, protect her identity. Stance, scientist. Evidence board likely column. Facts: patient was in pain, time was short. Influence: apologize for tone, schedule follow-up, consult pain team. Signals: patient agrees to plan. Smallest action: send a message. I want to get this right. I didn't like how rushed I felt with you. Can we add 10 minutes tomorrow and loop in pain management? She stamps. Proceed at 70%. Later, she writes a 2% upgrade. Ask one grounding question before exam. Ray is not a saint. She is a practitioner of the pause. Her patients feel it as respect. She feels it as relief that her values have a spine. Breathe once more, long on the exhale. Let your gaze take in a little more of the room as if widening a camera lens. Place a hand on your chest and feel the rhythmic thud that has carried you through every storm so far. Speak quietly inside. I am the awareness, not the emotion. And add, if you like, my mind is my guide, not my judge. You are not erasing your inner voice, you are educating it. Education takes repetition. Repetition builds reflex. Reflex under heat is what we are after. Your practice for the next 24 hours is the thought-to-proof loop. 3 times, when a loud thought arrives, run Tag-and-Tame in one breath. Sketch the likely column of the evidence board 3x3 and pick one smallest wise action. Stamp permission at 70% and do 60 seconds toward it. Close each loop with a 2% upgrade note. Next time, adjust X, record one line in your pause ledger, tagged, acted, upgraded. You will watch, in ink, your inner voice move from siren to scout. You are not the sentences that flash through your skull. You are the sky that chooses which ones to keep, which ones to set down, and which ones to rewrite into the kind of guidance you offer a friend. Keep breathing, keep tagging, keep building your evidence. Thought by thought, proof by proof, you are teaching your nervous system that clarity is not a miracle, it is a method you own. Anxiety isn't only a momentary surge, it's a cycle. Your body spins up like a storm, and if the storm doesn't get to finish, the weather lingers, buzz in your limbs, a jaw that wakes you at 3 a.m., a mind that chews the same thread until morning. Today you'll learn to complete the cycle so pressure doesn't accumulate like sediment. We'll build 2 frameworks that let you process stress and return to clarity on purpose. The stress cycle completion and the recovery architecture. One discharges the charge. The other rebuilds your baseline so your next pause doesn't start from a deficit. When you can finish what your body started, you stop being stalked by yesterday's adrenaline. Begin in the doorway of sensation. Inhale for 4, pause softly, then let a slow 6-count exhale brush the back of your throat. Notice the cool thread of air at your nostrils and the warmer air on the way out. Feel the weight of your tongue. Let your shoulders drop a finger width. Press your feet into the floor and sense the pressure spread across the balls of your feet like ink in paper. You're telling your nervous system, we're here. Presence is the gate to completion. The stress cycle completion is simple because your biology is simple when it's honest. The body revs to run or fight. It needs a movement, a breath, a signal of safety, and a social cue that says, it's over. Here's how you'll feel it, not memorize it. Move, breathe, express, soothe. Move for 60 to 90 seconds. Brisk walk, wall push-ups, shaking out arms like you're flicking water from your fingertips. Breathe with a longer exhale, 4-4-6 or 4-7-8, until you feel the tiniest drop of weight in your chest. Express with a sentence that names the weather and the value it tried to protect. That email spiked me, it's protecting my standard. Soothe with a parasympathetic cue, a slow hand over your sternum, a sip of water, a warm wash on your hands, a 5-second hug if you have someone nearby who says yes to hugs. Movement tells your chemistry we fled. Breath says we lived. Language says it meant something. Soothe says, and now we rest. Close the loop, don't leave it open. A story in fluorescent light. Rohan is a project manager who carries tension like a backpack. After a contentious meeting, he often sits back down and plows into email because productivity looks like safety. The tension, unspent, follows him home and snaps at his family. Last week he tried something different. The meeting ended with a terse, "We'll revisit." He felt heat in his face and the old urge to type. Instead, he walked the stairs to the lobby, 2 flights down and 2 back, hands on the rail, Soles feeling each step. Movement. At his desk, he breathed 4-4-6-3 rounds. Breath, he whispered, that Spike cared about doing honest work. Express. Then he stood in the restroom and ran warm water over his hands for 20 seconds, feeling the temperature as if his skin were listening. Soothe. The whole sequence took 3 minutes. He returned to his chair, still alert, but the static had dropped a few decibels. That night, he didn't snap when his kids spilled pasta. Same day, different completion. Feel your own hands now. Rub them together gently until heat blooms. Place one palm on your sternum and notice warmth spread under your skin. Let your exhale lengthen by a count, then 2. The completion you seek is physical. The mind cooperates when the body believes you. Sometimes you can't take a walk after a spike. You're on a call, or a patient needs you, or you're between subway stops. That's where the micro-completion lives. It's a 90-second sequence you can run without leaving your chair. 10 seconds. Tense every muscle in your body from feet to face, then release on a long exhale. 30 seconds. Shake out your hands and roll your shoulders in slow circles, 5 each direction. 30 seconds. Breathe 4-4-6 while naming the weather once. Buzzing forearms, guarding competence. 20 seconds. Fix your gaze on one point and soften your jaw. You'll feel foolish the first time. Feel foolish and finish anyway. Your biology doesn't care about cool, it cares about completed arcs. Now we build the second framework, the recovery architecture. Completing a cycle calms the spike. Architecture rebuilds your baseline so you don't live at a 5 out of 10 all week. Think of it as 3 rooms you visit each day: release, realign, re-enter. Release is a small ritual that drains residual tension, movement, stretch, sound. Realign reconnects you to values and story, 2 lines in a notebook, 1 question answered. Re-enter is the deliberate crossing back into your life. Close the laptop with a palm on it, wash your hands, step through a doorway, and say a sentence that marks the shift. Architecture makes endings and beginnings explicit. Ambiguous edges breed constant alertness. Clear edges let your nervous system stop scanning. A scene in Evening Light. Yi works from home, which means he never fully leaves work. At 6:12 p.m., he would wander from keyboard to kitchen carrying a cloud of code bugs that clung to his shoulders. His partner felt his absence even when he stood in the room. Yi built a recovery architecture. Release, 3 minutes of cat-cow spinal waves and 10 slow air squats, hearing the small creak of floorboards. Realign, write 2 lines, today I served by, tomorrow I'll prove it with. Re-enter, close the laptop, lay a palm on it for 1 breath, then touch the doorframe to the hallway and say, I'm shifting to home. The sentence felt corny until it worked. His partner noticed within a week, you actually arrive now. Arriving is medicine. Check your senses. Hear 1 distant sound, feel the fabric along your collar, notice the weight behind your eyes. Recovery is not the absence of stress, it's the presence of rhythm. Your heart knows rhythm, your breath knows rhythm. Bring your work and relationships into that rhythm and your system stops acting like a deer on a freeway. There is a lie that completion must be dramatic to count. The truth is kind, small completions compound. Use the two-gate reset whenever you leave a context. Gate 1 is a breath at the threshold, literally a pause with your hand on the knob or your cursor over leave meeting. Gate 2 is a micro gesture that marks the new room, face softening, shoulders down, a sentence like, "Now I'm with you." 2 gates, 5 seconds, dozens of times. The cumulative effect is a nervous system that trusts transitions. Let's do a drill that weaves the frameworks into your spine. Set a 2-minute timer. First minute, stress cycle completion at your desk. 10-second full body tense and release, shoulder circles, 3-4-4-6 breaths, whisper your value, then run your palms slowly over your sternum. Second minute, recovery architecture, write one line of realign, I served by, and perform one re-enter gesture that suits your setting. Close a tab, stand and touch the wall, say switching. When the timer ends, notice the micro shift in your chest. Even if it's 2%, notice it. Tagging small changes trains your brain to repeat them. An anecdote in a busier room. May is a high school teacher who loves the kids and dreads the bell that releases one class and ushers in the next like a tide. Her stress cycles stacked by noon, her voice narrower, her patience thinner. She created a hallway version. Between classes, she walks to the door, plants both feet, and shakes her hands down twice like flinging off water. Move. She breathes in for 4 as she watches students stream by, breathes out for 6 as she feels her jaw soften. Breathe, she thinks, this surge protects my care. Express. She presses her palm to the doorframe for 1 second before greeting the next class. Soothe. The ritual takes 20 seconds. The day stops feeling like one long inhale. Let your gaze widen, see the corners of the room. If your jaw is creeping upward, let it hang for a beat, and then close gently without clenching. Feel the coolness at the tip of your nose on the inhale and the warmth on the exhale. Each sensory note is a handhold. You're climbing back into the present each time you notice one. There's brain science humming under this that matters without being a lecture. Completing the cycle discharges sympathetic activation. Long exhales and rhythmic movement stimulate vagal tone, sliding you toward parasympathetic balance, where digestion, creativity, and connection live. Labeling the value behind the surge reduces inner conflict, which keeps the prefrontal cortex online. Recovery architecture exploits context-dependent memory. When you pair a gesture with a mental shift consistently, your brain starts switching modes when it recognizes the gesture. Rituals are neural shortcuts. Now address the saboteur. I don't have time. Completion takes less time than cleanup. The 3 minutes you invest after a spike prevent 30 minutes of compulsive reshuffling and 3 hours of poor sleep. If your brain demands proof, give it a ledger experiment. For 2 days, run a completion after the 3 biggest spikes and note your evening state, jaw, sleep, irritability. Your future self writes in the margins that this was not a luxury, it was a lever. A relationship scene, quieter but sharp. Nor is co-parenting across households. Text threads with her ex-partner can turn a logistics exchange into a courtroom in 2 lines. After one tense message, she used to reply immediately, fingers buzzing. Now she completes before she composes. Walk to the sink, run warm water over wrists. Move shoulders, breathe out long. Whisper, this protects my child's schedule. Then she writes a clear, short response that names 1 fact and 1 ask. Pickup is 3:30 at Gate B. Can you confirm by noon? The conversation still has edges, nor doesn't blade through them. Add a tiny sensor to your day, the finish flag. It's a physical cue you place where your work ends, a small object on your desk, a folded cloth, a stone. When you touch it, you run a 10-second version of completion. Breath out, palm on sternum, name the value, touch the flag. The object becomes a conditioned signal that tells your nervous system, done. Done is how you rest without collapsing. Feel your lower ribs expand on the inhale, then soften on the exhale. If you're standing, bend knees slightly and sway side to side as if your body were a tree learning wind. Notice the pull along one calf, the stretch along your side. You aren't seeking perfection, you're seeking contact. Contact sets the stage for choice. Now let's build a morning counterpart that preloads your system, the daybreak downshift. Ironically, starting slower speeds you later. 2 minutes after you wake, sit on the edge of the bed. Release with 5 slow neck nods and 3 shoulder rolls. Realign with a single sentence of intent. Today I serve by. Re-enter with one physical ritual that marks the day beginning. Open the blinds, sip warm water, or step outside and feel air on your face for one breath. When pressure hits later, your body remembers that you already chose your direction. It spends less time searching and more time moving. A story in early light. Bryce is a paramedic. Sirens mark his calendar. He used to wake and scroll, letting other people's emergencies set his tone. He swapped to daybreak downshift. Sit, roll, sip, sentence. Today I serve by delivering calm hands. On shift, after the adrenaline of a call, he runs a 1-minute completion sitting in the rig. Shake hands, exhale long, say, that surge protects life, then sip water and touch the rig's metal edge. His partner noticed, you reset faster. Bryce isn't superhuman, he's rhythmic. You will miss completions. You will carry unfinished weather into the next room. That is part of being a person. When you notice it, tight jaw at dinner, short fuse at bedtime, you repair with the late finish. Say, I left the last room in my body. Then do 60 seconds, tense release 4-4-6, hand over sternum. If a conversation is mid-flight, ask for a pause with dignity. Give me 60 seconds to reset so I can stay respectful. You aren't asking permission to be human, you're modeling it. Notice your breath now and let it deepen by a hair. Sense the fabric on your thighs. Hear the closest and farthest sounds you can detect. The room widens when you include it. In that wider room, choices arrive. To tie identity to this, adopt a title. You are a finisher, not of tasks alone but of cycles. When stress revs, you feel it and finish it. When the day ends, you mark it. When you move rooms, you cross thresholds awake. Say quietly, I am the awareness, not the emotion. I am the finisher, not the storm. Titles shape behavior. You already know this from job names and family roles. Give yourself one that guards your nervous system like a friend. A final story to carry forward. Sana is a chef in a small, beloved restaurant. Dinner service is theater and fire. Tickets stack, pans hiss, voices rise. For years, Sana wore her adrenaline like armor and crashed hard after midnight, eyes wired, heart loud in the quiet. She felt like she was living in the echo. One night, she built a kitchen version of completion. After the final ticket, she placed both palms on the stainless counter and shook out her arms. Move. She breathed with a long exhale as she felt the cool steel under her hands. Breathe, she said. This surge guarded the craft. Express. She turned off the last burner, listened to the tick of cooling metal, and took one sip of water with a soft jaw. Soothe. Then she walked to the alley, felt the night air on her cheeks, and said, shift complete, like a benediction. She fell asleep 90 minutes earlier and woke able to taste her coffee. Over weeks, her team copied the ritual. The kitchen changed flavor. Close with an embodied minute. Inhale 4, hold, exhale 6. Tense everything and release. Roll shoulders 5 each way. Whisper the value behind your latest surge. Place your palm on your chest and feel the warmth under your hand, the thud of a heart that has carried storms. Touch an object near you as if placing a small flag. Done for now. Let your jaw soften. Let your eyes widen a fraction to include the corners of the room. You are not abandoning responsibility. You are completing a cycle so you can pick responsibility back up with cleaner hands. Your practice for the next day is the finish trio. After 3 spikes, run stress cycle completion within 5 minutes. At the end of your day, run your recovery architecture in 3 steps. Release, realign, re-enter. Mark each in your pause ledger with a single sentence. Completed after evening reset. You will feel the cumulative effect not as fireworks, but as sturdiness. Jaw softer at night, breath calmer at dawn, attention that lands where you place it. That sturdiness is the quiet privilege of people who finish. One last breath. Feel the air, the chair, the floor. Whisper, I am the awareness, not the emotion. Add, if it fits, I finish what my body starts. Then step into your next room and cross its threshold on purpose. Setbacks don't just bruise your plans, they rattle your identity. After a mistake, your chest feels hollow, heat gathers at the back of your neck, and your mind races to rewrite history in 100 versions where you didn't miss. You replay the scene the way a tongue worries a chipped tooth, again, again, again. The rumor inside says, if you feel bad enough, you'll be safe next time. But shame is a terrible teacher. It assigns blame, not skill. Today is about becoming unshakable after you shake. You'll learn to turn mistakes and uncertain calls into momentum with 2 frameworks, the Aftershock Protocol and the Decision Crisping Method. One metabolizes the sting without losing time. The other makes clean choices when the fog won't clear. Together, they let you move like a person who trusts themselves under imperfect skies. Begin where you live, the body. Inhale through your nose for 4, hold lightly, and exhale for 6 as if you're trying to warm a window with breath. Feel the cool thread at your nostrils, the slow drop of your shoulders, the weight of your tongue relaxing from the roof of your mouth. Name one texture you can feel right now, the grain of your desk, the smoothness of a mug, the elastic at your wrist. Sensation is a doorway back to the present. You can't steer from a ghost of 5 minutes ago. Here's the first framework. The Aftershock Protocol has 3 moves you can do in 90 seconds when something goes sideways. Acknowledge, contain, convert. Acknowledge is a single sentence that names the reality without a verdict. That landed poorly, or I missed the window. The point is to stop the limbic courtroom from opening. Contain is a quick boundary around scope and time, so the problem stays small enough to move. We are dealing with this piece by 4 p.m. Convert is where you mine the event for the next verb tied to a value. Serve clarity, write the 2-line fix, or serve ownership, message and propose the path. Acknowledge shrinks shame. Contain shrinks chaos. Convert turns energy into action before the mind builds a museum of regret. A story with fluorescent lights and paper coffee cups. Theo ran a webinar for clients. 10 minutes in, the audio stuttered and his slides froze on a mid-sentence chart. He felt the heat climb his face, the familiar lurch to fill the silence with apology or speed. He paused, 4 count in, 6 count out. Aftershock, acknowledging tech glitch mid-webinar. He cupped the moment with contain, fix in 2 minutes, switch to phone dial-in. Convert, serve trust, name it, state a plan, deliver one value while the team resets. Out loud, his voice steadied, we've got an audio hiccup. Give us 2 minutes to switch to backup. While we do, here's the outcome you'll leave with today in 1 sentence. He spoke the sentence he'd rehearsed in calmer hours. The team posted the dial-in. The room stayed with him because he stayed with himself. The mistake didn't define the hour, his response did. Let your gaze widen to catch the edges of the room. If your jaw is tight, let the molars part a millimeter. Rub your fingertips together and feel the tiny ridges meet. You are turning on your internal lights. With the lights on, storms look like weather, not the end of the world. Aftershock gets you through the bump, but some pain doesn't come from error. It comes from the fog of undecidable choices. Anxiety promises that if you think longer, you'll find perfect. Perfection is a mirage with excellent marketing. You need clean decisions made on purpose, not fantasy. Enter the decision crisping method. It's 3 steps: criteria, cut, commit. Criteria means you name the 3 qualities that matter most for this decision in this context, not in a textbook. Cut means you set a time box and a good enough line for each criterion, then stop collecting inputs when those lines are met. Commit means you pick a smallest reversible action that tests the decision and sets a review point. Criteria arrests the sprawl, cut arrests the scroll, commit creates reality you can learn from. Walk it once, you're choosing between 2 job offers. Pause and breathe. Criteria, learning curve, manager quality, commute. Cut, learning curve, projects using X within 3 months. Manager quality, 2 references say they develop. Commute, under 45 minutes door-to-door. You time box research to 48 hours. When each line is satisfied, you stop digging. Commit, accept offer A, set a 90-day review with yourself tied to the criteria. Smallest reversible action now, send acceptance and calendar the review. That last piece matters. Anxiety quiets when it sees a date on the calendar where you will remeasure against what you cared about, not against the imaginary perfect. You turn regret into a scheduled audit. Feel the air on your cheeks. If you can stand, gently sway from heel to toe, toe to heel. Hear the nearest sound and the farthest. Notice how the room becomes an ally when you let it in. Choice happens in rooms, not in clouds. A second story, this one in a hospital corridor that smells like antiseptic and coffee. Ria is a resident deciding whether to escalate a patient transfer. The chart is messy, the vitals muddied by a borderline value. Anxiety tells stories. If you're cautious, you'll be called timid. If bold, reckless, she pauses. Aftershock isn't needed yet, nothing failed, just fog. Decision crisping, criteria, patient safety, clarity of chain of command, time sensitivity. Cut safety, err on preventable risk, chain, inform attending, time, decide in 5 minutes. Commit, page the attending with a 1-sentence status and 1 question. Document the rationale in 2 lines. Set a mental review after labs. She feels her chest loosen as action arrives. Crisp decisions don't erase uncertainty. They choose a way to move through it with dignity. A micro drill to wire the methods. Set a 1-minute timer. Think of a small wobble from the last week, a late reply, a missed cue, a sloppy sentence. Whisper an acknowledge line. Draw a contain box, this piece by this time. Name a convert verb tied to a value. Do the smallest action for 30 seconds. Then, for the final 30 seconds, run a decision crisping on something pending today. Name 3 criteria. Set 1 cut line. Pick the smallest commit step. When the timer ends, execute the commit for 60 seconds. You just flipped 2 possible spirals into traction. Science in brief, so you trust the choreography. Aftershocks flood your system with catecholamines. Naming and time boxing recruit prefrontal circuits that inhibit limbic amplification. Values-aligned verbs tap motor planning networks, shortening the gap between intention and motion. Decision criteria prime the reticular activating system to filter for what matches. Time boxes prevent the dopamine loop of infinite scrolling, for one more piece of certainty. Reviews scheduled in advance reduce regret bias because you judge the decision by the information available then, not by perfect hindsight. You are designing your brain's courtroom. Sense your body again. Place a hand on your sternum and feel warmth under your palm. Let your exhale brush the back of your throat like a quiet sigh. If your shoulders have crept up, roll them back and let them settle. You are building a nervous system that associates pressure with choreography, not catastrophe. You'll still encounter days when the mistake stings too much for quick conversion. That's when you use the gentle debrief triangle. 3 questions, 1 minute each, no novels. What was in my control? What will I keep? What will I change by 2%? You're not letting yourself off the hook. You're changing the hook into a handle. Handles move things. Hooks just hang you up. A relationship scene because failure visits kitchens as often as boardrooms. Tori forgot a birthday she meant to mark, and her partner's face tightened like a door left ajar in the rain. Old Tori spiraled into apology marathons that turned a miss into a maze. Paused Tori breathed, felt the coolness in the kitchen tile under bare feet, and ran Aftershock. Acknowledge, I missed the day. Contain, repair today, plan tonight. Convert, serve, care, name, impact, propose a make right. She said, I get why that hurt. I want to make this right tonight. Can we design a small ritual you'd love? They built a plan over dinner. Later, Tori ran the gentle debrief triangle alone and wrote 1-2%, calendar rituals 7 days ahead. The sting didn't vanish, it found a path. Let your gaze soften into the corners of the room. Touch the nearest object and name its temperature. Hear the smallest sound. These sensory bridges keep identity from collapsing into a moment. You are the awareness, not the emotion. You are the sky that holds weather and decides which tools to reach for. Add a companion practice that locks in confidence without bravado. The future receipt. Right after a decision or a repair, write a 1-sentence receipt dated in the near future that states the outcome you'll check. On November 12, I confirm that the morning sprint rescued the draft. Or in 2 weeks, I confirm that the boundary kept my evenings human. Put the date on your calendar. When it arrives, you measure. If the receipt cashes, your nervous system collects interest called trust. If it bounces, you adjust with data instead of shame. Another scene to stretch the muscle. You've sent a proposal, the client goes quiet. Your stomach fizzes, your brain imagines 100 reasons, most of which star your incompetence. Aftershock doesn't apply, nothing broke. Decision crisping does. Criteria: maintain posture, reduce uncertainty, invest minimal time. Cut: 1 nudge after 48 hours, then 1 alternative channel after 72. Commit: send a 2-line check-in offering 1 next step. Set a review for Friday at 10 a.m. with a fallback plan to reach a new prospect if silence persists. You breathe, send, and return to your work. Your identity isn't hostage to someone else's inbox speed. Notice your breath lengthen by a hair. Feel the weight of your sit bones. If you can, stand and stretch your arms overhead, then let them fall and feel warmth gather along your forearms. Physical cues anchor mental posture. When your body stands like someone who can recover, your mind follows. There's a trap to avoid: productive punishment. That's when you work off a mistake by doing 3 unrelated tasks with intensity, hoping to pay a moral debt with motion. It feels righteous and leaves the original issue unsolved. Catch it with a sentence: am I repairing or performing? If performing, return to Aftershock. Acknowledge, contain, convert. Repair is specific. Performance is noisy. Let's build a quick ritual you can run at day's end to consolidate this chapter. The 2 light close. 1 light for learning, 1 for choosing. You write 1 line. Today I learned X from Y. You write 1 line. Tomorrow I choose Z at 9:00. Then you do 1 breath and touch a literal light, lamp switch, phone screen to mark off. Rooms obey lights, so do nervous systems. A final story in a boardroom with too much glass. Priyanka pitched a partnership to a larger firm. The lead executive frowned and said, "I don't see the win." The room chilled. Old Priyanka would have flooded the table with features. Paused Priyanka breathed and used Aftershock in real time. Acknowledged to herself, resistance in the room. Contain, clarify in 90 seconds. Convert, serve alignment, 1 question, 1 trade-off. She said, if we had to make this win obvious in 1 metric, which do you care about, retention or acquisition? The executive answered, retention. Priyanka cut her deck in half on the spot and spoke only to retention. Later, in the elevator, she felt a delayed tremor run through her forearms, the body's aftershock. She walked a single flight of stairs, breathed long, named the value the surge protected, craft, and let warm water run over her hands in the restroom. That night she filled a future receipt. In 2 weeks, confirm retention pilot results. 2 weeks later, the receipt cleared. More importantly, her identity didn't depend on it. Return to your body. Place a hand over your sternum. Feel the slow thud there, a patient drummer who never asks for applause. Let your exhale lengthen by 1 count. Whisper inside, I am the awareness, not the emotion. Add, if it fits, I recover fast and decide clean. This is not performance, it's posture. Posture you can practice until it's visible from across the room. Your drill for the next 24 hours is the shake-hand shape pair. First, the moment something wobbles, run the Aftershock Protocol in 1 breath and 1 sentence to someone if needed. Second, on 1 decision you've been postponing, run decision crisping, name criteria, set 1 cut line, pick 1 commit step, and calendar a review. Record both in your pause ledger as a single line. Aftershock on, crisp, review. You are building a ledger of recovery and choice. Recovery becomes identity. Choice becomes trust. 1 more breath, feel the chair, hear the room, let your jaw soften. The world does not need you to be flawless, it needs you to be responsive and real. Mistakes will visit, fog will roll in. You will pause, feel the weather, and build a small bridge that holds your weight. Then you will walk across it, not because the future is certain, but because you are. Change that lasts isn't powered by willpower, it's powered by design. You've learned to pause, choose a channel, reframe, finish the stress cycle, and recover. Now you'll wire those skills into your days so they fire even when you're tired. Today is about building an internal operating system that makes the wise choice the easy choice. You'll install 2 frameworks, the Value-to-Verb Pipeline and the Friction Map. The pipeline translates who you are into what you do in the next 5 minutes. The map removes tiny snags that quietly derail you. Together, they turn your pause into a habit engine, so clarity doesn't depend on mood. Start in the body so your design lands in muscles, not just in ideas. Inhale through your nose for 4, hold for 4, and let a slow 6-count exhale brush the back of your throat. Notice the cool thread of air, the softening under your collarbones, the weight of your tongue settling down. Feel your feet press into the floor, 5 toes on each side, a subtle spread across the ball of the foot. Safety first, strategy second. When your physiology hears safe enough, your prefrontal cortex opens the planning room. Here's the Value-to-Verb Pipeline. Picture a small workshop in your chest where values enter and specific actions exit. The pipeline runs through 3 stations you can speak in 1 sentence. First is North Star, one value you want to express this hour. Second is Bridge, one context you're actually in, not the fantasy version. Third is Verb, the smallest proof that makes the value visible here and now. When you say value, context, verb, you transform aspiration into choreography. You stop waiting for perfect conditions to be who you already are. Walk it once aloud. Value, generosity, context, tense team sync in 5 minutes. Verb, open by naming one teammate's recent win. Or value, craftsmanship, context, messy draft due by noon. Verb, tighten the headline and write one clean opening sentence. The brain loves verbs that your hands can do. The reticular activating system tunes to match whatever verb you name. You are not hoping to feel aligned. You are proving alignment and letting feeling catch up. A story in the wild to fasten this. Olma runs a small coffee shop where mornings feel like weather, steam, chatter, a line that snakes to the door. Mondays used to knuckle her into survival mode. She wanted to lead with warmth and precision, but the rush yanked her into orders and apologies. She wrote a North Star on an index card by the register. We serve with calm craft. At 6:57 a.m., she felt the first spike rise. She paused, breathed, and ran the pipeline. Value, calm craft. Context, line out the door. Verb, look each first customer in the eyes. Name one detail of their order as confirmation. Move without hurry. 3 customers in, the line still hummed, but Olma felt like herself while moving fast. By 8:30, the team copied her cadence. The rush didn't shrink. Her identity got a job. Anxiety had fewer places to roost. Let your gaze widen to include the edges of the room. Hear the nearest sound and the farthest you can detect. If your jaw is clamped, let your molars part a millimeter. Place one palm lightly on your sternum and feel the faint thud under your hand. When you design from sensation, your plan survives noise. Values can feel lofty unless you teach them to speak in the dialect of your calendar. You'll build a tiny ritual called the compass minute to prime the pipeline. At the top of an hour block, breathe 4-4-6 once, whisper your value, name the real context, and pick a verb you can complete in 2 minutes or less. You're not pretending the hour will go as planned. You're giving it a direction a surge cannot erase. If the hour explodes, you still own one sentence of proof. Proof is how identity thickens. Now the second framework, the friction map. Failure to act is rarely about character, it's about sand in the gears. Friction hides in toggles, tabs, stares, and social micro-moments that add drag until the shortest wise action feels heavy. The map has you scan 3 layers, physical, digital, relational, and remove one snag per layer that blocks your value-to-verb pipeline this week. You will feel silly removing tiny obstacles. Keep the silliness, measure the results. A scene to make this concrete. Daniel is a grad student who loves morning writing and hates starting it. Every day he promised himself an hour, and every day he lost 20 minutes to coffee, charger hunts, and document digging. He mapped friction. Physical, his desk lamp switch was behind a stack of books, so the room stayed dim and sleep clung to him. Digital, his draft lived 3 folders deep. He clicked himself into distraction. Relational, a roommate asked benign questions at 7 a.m. that pulled him into chatter. The fixes were small. He moved the lamp switch to the front edge with a cheap inline switch. He created a desktop alias named Next Paragraph. He told his roommate, headphones at 7 means sprint till 8. I'll say hi at 8:05. He didn't become disciplined overnight. He removed 3 pebbles from his shoes. The pipeline ran. Check your senses again. Feel the fabric against your forearms, the temperature on your cheeks, the way your sit bones settle into the chair. Let your exhale lengthen 1 count and notice the slightest drop behind your eyes. Sensory notes are the scaffolding that keeps intention upright when momentum wobbles. You'll add a practice that braids the pipeline and the map, the trigger tuning fork. Choose a recurring cue in your day: door handle, login screen, kettle boil. Each time it appears, you hum your pipeline under your breath with one verb, then glance at a single friction you can clear in 10 seconds. Door handle, value kindness, context hallway, verb greet by name, and you move the package that blocks the threshold. Login screen, value focus, context draft, verb write first line, and you close one irrelevant tab. The fork retunes your nervous system away from autopilot and toward deliberate presence. Tiny adjustments shift big arcs. A different story where emotions run hot. Nia is a product lead in back-to-back meetings. She values candor and often finds herself softening truth into fog. Before a high-stakes review, she paused at the glass door, felt the cool metal of the handle, and ran her tuning fork. Value candor, context exec review, verb name the trade-off in one sentence before slides. Friction map in play. She had pre-written the one sentence on a sticky note inside the deck, so she didn't have to find words in heat. In the room, hearts beat loud. Nia led with, "We can hit Friday and pay with next week's defects. Do you want speed or stability?" The conversation sharpened. Candor wasn't a personality trait. It was a pipeline with friction removed. Breathe, inhale through your nose and feel the air swirl at the bridge. Exhale and sense your shoulders melt a fraction. Rotate your wrists and feel warmth gather in your hands. Place one hand over your belly and feel it rise on the inhale, fall on the exhale. You are the awareness designing systems that serve you when your feelings are loud. Sometimes friction is internal, shame that makes a task radioactive. That's where the gentle start switch helps. You lower the activation energy by defining a start that's too small to scare the nervous system. Open the document, put on shoes, dial the first 3 digits, pair the switch with your pipeline so value and verb meet in a motion your hands can honor. The nervous system learns safety by doing small safe things. Safe things scale. An anecdote after midnight. Kento is a new father studying for a certification exam at 10 p.m. when the apartment finally quiets. He values integrity and wants to keep a promise to himself without stealing from sleep. His friction is a couch that swallows him and a phone that sings him to scroll. He moved the phone charger to the kitchen, left a book open on the table with a sticky first paragraph, and taped a small note at eye level: value, integrity, context, tired. Verb one problem, then sleep. He set a 20-minute timer, solved one problem, wrote one 2% upgrade for tomorrow, and went to bed. Tiny, repeatable, identity-affirming. Over weeks, his body learned the ritual and began to exhale when the book opened. Rituals are doors. Your nervous system loves predictable thresholds. Let your eyes soften into the edges of the room. Press your toes into your shoes and feel the pressure arc across the ball of each foot. Hear a faint hum you had ignored. The presence you're building is not fancy. It's a series of yeses to the ordinary textures of your life. We'll stitch in a micro-practice that leverages your RAS like a stagehand, the cue card. Write a single sentence on a card or lock screen each morning that embodies your value-to-verb pipeline for the first heavy block. Serve clarity in design review, ask for the single metric before slide 2. Serve care at dinner, put the phone in the drawer before plating. When the surge hits, you don't negotiate, you execute the card. Negotiation drains. Execution builds trust. Your brain likes receipts, so we'll extend your pause ledger with a new column, pipeline proof. Each time you run value right arrow context right arrow verb, jot the verb and the sensory anchor that helped. Name the trade-off, felt cool handle, cut slide, exhaled long. Over a week, you'll see which anchors work and which frictions reappear. Patterns let you adjust the map without drama. A workplace scene where time attacks. Matteo is an analyst who values depth but drowns in shallow demands. His afternoon slot for real thinking vanished daily under quick requests. He mapped friction and found a calendar that presented his deep work as optional. He renamed the block Deliver Q3 Decision and added the stakeholders' initials. He moved the block to 9:10 a.m. and built a boundary bridge informed by value, committed to the Q3 decision by Friday, not available 9:10. I can send a 3-line update at 10:05. The block stuck. The quality of his decisions rose because the map guarded the pipeline. Anxiety dropped not because work shrank, but because the day had shape that matched what mattered. Breathe again and feel the ribcage widen like a bellows. On the exhale, imagine dust settling on a windowsill behind your breastbone. If your shoulders have crept up, roll them back and let them settle. Whisper inside, I am the awareness, not the emotion. Feel the inch of space that sentence opens behind your eyes. That inch is where your pipeline runs. Let's add one more tool that keeps systems humane, the Sabbath slot. You designate a small, fixed window each week where you deliberately do not optimize. No pipeline, no ledger, just presence and pleasure on purpose. You walk without measuring steps, cook without a timer, sit on a floor and feel sunlight. The nervous system needs proof that life is not a project. Paradoxically, your other days sharpen because this slot reminds your body that rest exists without permission slips. A relationship story where friction wore down tenderness. Mo and Imani loved each other and hated their evenings, phones at the table, half listening, stray work pings staining conversation. They valued connection and felt far. They built a pipeline, value connection, context dinner, verb phones out of sight, ask one story starting question. Friction map. They put a small wooden box by the kitchen door. They fetched a deck of prompts and left it under a plant. The first week felt contrived. By week 3, their bodies anticipated the ritual with a small exhale as the phones dropped into the box. Connection wasn't a mood. It was a designed doorway they both walked through. Check your senses. Feel the cool or warmth along your wrists. Notice the weight of your eyelids, the texture of breath at your throat. Tap your thumb to each fingertip slowly and feel the ridges touch. Every note recorded in your nervous system makes your design durable. For days when the map feels overwhelming and you can't find the verb, you'll use the one-tile rule. Imagine your day as a mosaic. You just need to place one tile in the right color. You speak, value X, context Y, verb Z, then act for 60 seconds. One tile placed makes the next easier to see. Over time, the mosaic resolves into a picture that looks like you on your best days, lived often. A quick drill to lock it all in. 2 minutes, 3 moves. First 40 seconds, run a live value-to-verb pipeline for the next hour and write the verb. Next 40, scan for 1 physical, 1 digital, and 1 relational friction you can reduce in 10 seconds each. Remove 1 now. Last 40, set a cue card or sticky with your sentence and put it where your eyes will land at the moment of heat. Then move for 60 seconds toward the verb. Your brain will reward you with a small drop of calm called coherence, your inside matching your outside. There's neuroscience helping quietly. Values language recruits networks that integrate emotion with planning, which improves inhibition under stress. When you pair a value with a specific verb, you activate motor planning circuitry and reduce choice paralysis. Friction removal reduces micro-threats that would otherwise keep your sympathetic system humming. Less background alarm means more working memory available for wise action. Cue cards and rituals exploit context-dependent memory, so your environment becomes a partner in recall. This is not willpower theater, it's infrastructural kindness. Return to your body. Place both palms on your thighs and feel the warmth under your hands. Inhale so your lower back widens a little. Exhale and let your shoulders sink. Let your eyes take in the corners of the room and the space between objects. Whisper, I am the awareness, not the emotion. Add, if it helps, I am the architect of my attention. One more story from a different field. Zara is a junior attorney with a reputation for brilliance and burnout. She valued justice and precision, but her calendar worshipped urgency. She built a weekly friction map review, Sunday evening, 15 minutes, tea in hand, no screens. She asked, what snag tripped me most? And removed one pebble. One week she automated a template for client updates. Another week she set Slack statuses that matched her pipeline, heads down till 11, will respond at 11:10. She practiced the compass minute before court appearances, value dignity, context judge's chamber, verb breathe long, state the request in one sentence. 6 months later she was the same person with different weather, less static, more signal. Her colleagues noticed that she didn't rush inside their rush. Systems had given her spine to carry her values when the room heated up. Breathe once more. Feel the chair reliably holding you. If you can, stand, sway gently side to side, and feel how balance returns as you move. You are teaching your nervous system that steadiness can travel. For the next 24 hours, live like an architect with a small toolkit. Before your heaviest block, run the compass minute and write one cue card. Remove one friction from each layer when you find it. At least once, speak your value-to-verb pipeline out loud in a doorway where your hand touches a handle. Then record one line in your pause ledger. Value right arrow context, right arrow verb, proof, frictions cleared. The ledger won't clap. It will accumulate. Accumulation becomes identity when the evidence piles up in your favor. You are not waiting to become someone new. You are revealing who you've been by making it easier to act like them on ordinary Tuesdays. You are building an inner workshop where anxious energy arrives and leaves as contribution. You are designing a life where your nervous system doesn't have to shout to be heard because you've built paths for it to walk. One last breath, inhale 4, hold, exhale 6. Feel the temperature of the air, the weight of your feet, the quiet window behind your breastbone opening a notch. Say inside, I am the awareness, not the emotion. Then pick one verb for the next minute and do it. That is design. That is dignity in motion. That is how the pause turns into a way of life. Confidence is not the absence of doubt. It's the presence of a plan you can feel in your hands when doubt arrives. You've built pauses that work in single scenes. Now you'll extend that calm across uncertain days and high-stakes stretches, launch weeks, exam seasons, family transitions where the air crackles. Today is about durable confidence under moving skies. You'll learn 2 frameworks that make steadiness portable, the red-yellow-green system and the Pre-Mortem-to-Playbook. One tells you exactly how to act at different signal levels in your body. The other turns imagined obstacles into rehearsed responses, so surprise can't steal your voice. Together, they make your pause a field kit you carry everywhere. Start in your body. Inhale for 4 through your nose and notice coolness brush the inside of your nostrils. Hold lightly as if balancing a leaf on your ribs. Exhale for 6 and feel your shoulders drop 0.5 centimeter. Let your tongue fall from the roof of your mouth. Sense your feet, heel, ball, 5 toes pressing into the floor. These sensations are not decoration, they're your dashboard lights. When you can read them, you don't need to guess what kind of road you're on. Here's the red-yellow-green system. You'll color code your internal weather and attach a small script to each color so you never wonder what to do first. Green means baseline, breath easy, jaw soft, thoughts cooperative. Yellow means activation, heart a little fast, tunnel starting, urgency licking the edges. Red means hijack, hot face, shaky hands, words sprinting ahead of sense. Your job isn't to chase green and fear red. Your job is to recognize the color and run the right choreography. Green days look simple but are sacred. In green, you bank competence. Your script is prime and plant. Prime means one deliberate breath and one clear sentence before you start a block, value to verb as you learned. Plant means you leave a breadcrumb for future you, a next line note at the end of the document, a post-it with the first verb for tomorrow, a calendar invite titled with a sentence, not a label. Green you takes care of yellow you, that's leadership. Yellow calls for shrink and sequence. Shrink is a single question you already know. What's the smallest wise action that serves my outcome? Sequence is 3 minutes of choreography you can do half asleep. 4-4-6 twice, 1 anchored outcome sentence, 1 micro brief first verb. Yellow doesn't need speeches, it needs rails. Red is the moment you feel least able to choose and most in need of a choice. Red's script is ground and gate. Ground is 90 seconds of body first. Tense and release, shake hands, long exhale, name the weather. Gate is 1 boundary sentence that protects the next 10 minutes while you regain steering. I'm resetting for 2 minutes to answer clearly, or give me till the top of the hour for a clean decision. Red turns reckless when it feels trapped. Gates give it dignity. Your system obeys repetition. Name the color, run the script, record the receipt. A story in an office that smells faintly of coffee and printer toner. Cellini leads customer success. Monday morning brings a surge of cancellations after a pricing change. Slack pings stack. The team's chat turns into a tangle of blame and fix it now. Cellini's chest tightens, her throat feels glassy, yellow pushing red. She says the color under her breath, red. Ground, she stands, shakes her hands, breathes long, whispers the weather. Gate, she posts, team, I'm taking 2 minutes to stabilize so we answer once and well. Back at 10:06 with a plan. 2 minutes later, she returns with a yellow script, shrink and sequence. Outcome, stabilize trust today. Smallest proof, 1 clean message, 1 clarified refund path, 1 call sign-up link. She writes the message, tags the owner of the path, books 3 customer calls, and asks the team to paste worst questions for a shared doc. The system didn't cancel complexity. It gave her steady hands inside it. Check your senses again. Feel the air along your wrists. Hear the nearest sound and the farthest you can catch without strain. Let your gaze soften so you see more of the room at once, as if your vision had shoulders that could roll back. Confidence grows where your senses stay online. Now the second framework, the Pre-Mortem-to-Playbook. A pre-mortem is a rehearsal for failure done while your brain is calm. Instead of hoping for smooth water, you imagine 3 specific waves that could hit. Then you write the first sentence you'll say and the first move you'll make when they do. The playbook is that list of sentences and moves. You keep it on a card, ready in your pocket or your mind. Anxiety loses half its bite when you've already heard your own voice respond. At once, you've got a presentation Friday, pre-mortem, slide deck crashes, hostile question, time cut in half. Playbook lines, if deck crashes, I can give you the spine in 3 points while we reload. First move, switch to whiteboard and write the 3 points. If hostile question, great, let's define the metric that matters and revisit the trade-off. First move, name speed versus stability. If time cut, here's the one decision we need, 3 data points in 90 seconds. First move, skip to decisions slide. You aren't courting doom, you're granting your future self a script that survives adrenaline. Let's put it in a messy human scene. You're meeting your partner's family for the first time. Your history with such dinners is lit by landmines, politics, career choices, the subtle quiz about your worth. Pre-mortem 3 waves, pointed question about money, story that erases your work, dig at boundaries. Playbook, if money, I'm happy to share the principle guiding us, specifics feel private. First move, name the principle. If erasure, I hear a different version, I'm proud of the path I chose. First move, smile with soft eyes, speak one present tense proof. If boundary dig, I love being here, I won't debate that tonight. First move, redirect to shared memory. You breathe, feel the chair, hold your partner's glance, and walk in with a ready mouth and a regulated jaw. Pause and scan your body. Place one palm over your sternum and one over your belly. Inhale so the lower hand moves first, then the upper. Exhale long enough that both descend together. Feel the warmth under your top palm. Whisper, I am the awareness, not the emotion. That sentence is the title page to every playbook you'll ever write. You'll build the playbook quickly with a micro practice called 2-minute foresight. Set a timer. For 60 seconds, list likely bumps in the next big block. For 30 seconds, write the first sentence you'll say for each. For 30 seconds, write the first move your hands will make. Close your eyes on a slow exhale and picture yourself doing it once. Your brain rehearses action better than it rehearses outcomes. Rehearse moves. There's brain science under this that stays in service of your hands. When you name color states, you reduce ambiguity. Ambiguity is expensive for your threat system. When you attach scripts to colors, you create state-dependent routines that light up quickly under load. Pre-mortems prime the reticular activating system to notice early signs of the bumps you named, so you steer sooner. Mental practice activates many of the same motor and language circuits as physical practice. The rehearsal burns a faint groove that live moments can follow. You're not manifesting luck, you're manufacturing readiness. A story under bright lights. Nina from earlier chapters is presenting to the executive team. She's green at 8:30 a.m., calm, precise. At 9:52, waiting outside the room, she feels yellow creep up her spine as 2 execs walk in mid-argument. Yellow script engages, shrink and sequence, smallest proof, open with the trade-off line. Inside the room, a projector hiccups. Red tries to rise. She names it grounds gates. Give me 60 seconds to whiteboard the 3 points while we reload. She writes the spine. A tough question lands. Why should we trust your projections? Pre-mortem line. Let's anchor on the one metric you care about and the assumptions underneath it. She asks for the metric, lays out assumptions, and proposes a small pilot. Confidence is visible here not as swagger, but as choreography. Later she'll record a receipt. Red named, gate set, spine whiteboarded. Identity attaches to receipts, not to vibes. Let your eyes land on something steady. Feel the texture under your fingertips, glass, wood, fabric, and notice if it's warmer where your skin lingers. Listen for a hum that had blended into the background. Presence helps you catch the micro moments where your color shifts, so you intervene early. We'll braid the 2 frameworks into a practice you can run at the start of any intense day. The AM color brief. It takes 90 seconds. You breathe 4-4-6. You name what green will look like and when you'll bank it. Green 8-9, prime and plant for the design block. You name the likely yellow window and your shrink and sequence. yellow after lunch. Smallest proof is one decision summary. You name one red trigger and your ground and gate line. If the vendor misses the call, I'll say, I'm resetting for 2 minutes, back with the contingency, then run the playbook. You jot one pre-mortem line for the top risk. Then you put the card where your hand will touch it. Door handle, notebook cover, laptop bezel. A relationship story in smaller rooms. Jules and Sam have been circling the same argument about chores for months. Saturday morning, the sink already looks like a modern art installation. Jules feels heat behind the eyes, yellow shading toward red. Jules says the color allowed, not to weaponize it, but to self-select the script. I'm yellow. Shrink and sequence, one breath, one sentence, one ask. I want us to be on the same team. Can we split this into a 2-song wash now and a 10-minute reset at 5? Later, pre-mortem for the evening. If a snide comment slips out, playbook line is that landed sharp. I care about tone, try again. First move, soft jaw, step closer rather than away. By night, the room feels like a room, not a courthouse. Anxiety often spikes around the unknown, so you'll add a small companion tool, the margin envelope. You treat your day like a budget that needs literal margins. Choose 1 hour you can't control. Around it, draw a mental envelope, 5 minutes before, 5 after, where you do not schedule anything. In those 10 minutes, you run color checks and one pre-mortem line. Margins are not laziness, they're shock absorbers. Confidence hates brittle calendars. Back to the body. Inhale and feel the back of your ribs widen, not just the front. Exhale and let your face slacken for a beat before your jaw closes gently. Press your toes into the floor and feel the pressure arc across the balls of your feet. If you're standing, sway slowly until you feel equilibrium, like a glass of water settling. The body's yes gives the mind permission to execute the plan you wrote. You'll also meet days when colors flip faster than you can name them. That's when you use the single-syllable save. It's one sound you make to buy a breath. Wait, hold. People respect sound faster than they respect theory. The syllable is the handle you grab to keep from falling into old habits. You pair it with a micro-gate. Hold, give me 10 seconds. 10 seconds is a bridge. You've walked it before. An anecdote where pressure peaks. Arjun is arguing a motion. The judge interrupts with a skeptical eyebrow. Red wants to sprint. Arjun uses the syllable, then the gate. May I take 10 seconds to frame the narrowest question? He inhales, exhales, and runs his pre-mortem line. Your Honor, the question is whether the statute's plain language permits X under Y. Here are 2 sentences on precedent. He feels his shoes against the floor like anchors. The argument isn't easy. It is clean. After, in the corridor, he shakes his hands, names the surge's value, craft, and runs warm water over his wrists. The cycle finishes. He goes home as a person, not a courtroom ghost. Let your gaze widen again. Notice one color in the room you hadn't registered. Name the temperature on your cheeks. Feel the fabric at your collarbones. These small reports keep your nervous system honest. Honest systems match reality. Matching reality is the quiet definition of confidence. To make your playbook a living document rather than a talisman, you'll run the 24-hour loop. Tonight, write 3 lines, 1 color you named today, 1 script you ran, 1 line you'll add to the playbook for tomorrow's top risk. The next day, test it once. Confidence compounds. Each successful run buys a bit of trust that pays for the next. Another story with fluorescent hum and carpet squares. Priya from earlier sits in a quarterly planning meeting where stakes are invisible but massive. The room swims with abstraction, roadmaps, horizons, synergies, words that inflate anxiety because they have no handles. Priya runs her AM color brief quietly before walking in. Green, prime and plant an outcome sentence. Yellow window, the moment finance challenges headcount. Smallest proof is one trade-off framed. Red trigger, executive sarcasm, ground and gate line ready. In the meeting, sarcasm arrives like a fastball. Priya feels heat. She names red, grounds with a breath, gates a pause. Give me a second to answer well. Then she uses the playbook line. If we trade headcount here, we'll buy speed now at the cost of QA next quarter. Which do we value? The room has a decision on the table instead of a mood. Priya leaves with a receipt. Red managed, decision hosted. Identity takes another step toward unshakable. Breathe once more, place a palm over your sternum and feel the steady drum that has outlived every meeting, every dinner, every midnight. Whisper, I am the awareness, not the emotion. Add, if it fits, I run my colors, I write my lines. Feel the inch of space that sentence opens behind your eyes. That inch is your field kit. Your drill for the next 24 hours is the color and playbook pair. Morning, run the 90-second AM color brief and jot one pre-mortem line with its first move. Midday, when your color shifts, speak it, run the attached script, and if needed, use a single syllable save to buy your gate. Evening, write the 24-hour loop, color named, script run, playbook line added, and feel your jaw sit lower as your nervous system collects receipts that you can hold in your hand. This is how confidence stops being a story you tell and becomes a story your body believes. One last sensory minute to laminate today. Inhale 4, hold, exhale 6. Tense everything for 2 seconds and release. Rub your fingertips until heat gathers and place your palm on your chest. Feel warmth spread. Look to the corners of the room. Hear the nearest and farthest sounds. Taste whatever is in your mouth, even if it's just the ghost of coffee. You are here. The plan is simple. Colors, scripts, lines, moves. Not because the world will bow to your plan, but because you will carry a steady room inside you no matter which room you walk into next. Confidence that stays is built by the person you are when no one is watching. The way you stand at your kitchen sink at 7:12 a.m., the sentence you whisper in a hallway before a hard talk, the breath you choose when pressure rises and the old script wakes up. Today we'll sew everything together: pause, channel, budget, reframe, ladder, gate, sprint, bridge, repair, tag, evidence, finish, recover, design, colors, playbook, into a single way of living. You'll learn 2 final frameworks that turn skill into identity: the integration map and the closing loop contract. The first spreads your calm across domains so it survives travel and seasons. The second ensures nothing important leaks through the floorboards. When you're done, your pause will no longer be a tool you reach for. It will be the room you live in. Begin in the only place you ever can, your body. Inhale through your nose for 4, hold for 4. Exhale for 6 and feel your shoulders drop a grain of sand. Notice the cool thread of air at the bridge of your nose, the heat ghosting your upper lip on the out-breath. Let your jaw unclench. Place one palm lightly on your sternum and feel the slow thud there, patient, loyal, unhurried. You are reminding your system, we decide from here. The integration map is a simple compass drawn on a napkin and carried for a season. It has 4 directions: work, love, health, self. You pick one keystone behavior for each that expresses your values in a verb you can enact when tired. Then you pair each behavior with a sensory anchor and a sentence. Work becomes ask for the metric before slide 2. Anchor cool door handle, sentence, value clarity. Love becomes phones in the box at dinner. Anchor wood grain under fingertips, sentence, value presence. Health becomes 10 slow breaths before first scroll. Anchor morning light on your face, sentence, value stewardship. Self becomes write 2 honest lines at night. Anchor the scratch of pen, sentence, value truth. You don't try to fix everything. You choose 1 verb per direction and practice until the floor feels different under your feet. A story to make the map breathe. Andre had lived his life lopsided, sturdy at work and brittle at home. He could present cleanly to a crowded room and still bolt at the first sign of conflict with his brother. He drew the map in the break room on a paper towel. Work, state the trade-off in 1 sentence. Love, name 1 good thing out loud daily. Health, walk the block at lunch without phone. Self, 2 lines of ledger at night. He taped tiny cues where they belonged, a sticky note in his slide deck, a scrap of paper inside the kitchen drawer, shoes placed by the door at noon, a pen on his pillow. They were laughably small, which is why they worked. 6 weeks later, his days sounded different. We can ship Friday and pay in defects, speed or stability. I loved when you laughed at the burnt pancakes. I'm walking back in 11. Today I served by asking a harder question. He didn't become new. He became himself on purpose in more rooms. Let your gaze widen until the corners of the room join your view. Hear the nearest sound and the farthest you can detect without straining. Press your toes lightly into your shoes and feel the pressure arc across the ball of each foot. These notes of sensation are stitches. They hold your identity to your actions. The closing loop contract is how you keep promises to your future self without needing drama. It has 3 clauses you can speak in a minute. Clause 1, every day gets 1 receipt. Nothing big, just 1 line that proves you moved a value into motion. Clause 2, every week gets 1 review where you replace shame with 2% upgrades. Clause 3, every quarter gets 1 reset where you choose new keystones if the season changed you. The contract is written to someone you love, your future body, your future mind, your future relationships. You sign it with a habit you can feel. Try it, live, close your eyes for a breath. Think of the value you most want to carry for the next 7 days. Picture the face of 1 person that value serves. Now write a single closing loop sentence in your head. Today's receipt, I will, keep it within 2 minutes. Name where you'll review it this week and where you'll choose your 2% upgrade. Whisper, signed, and touch a physical object near you, a pen, a cup, a doorknob, so your hands record the vow. There's science inside this that keeps the poetry honest. When you choose 1 verb and attach it to a sensory anchor, you exploit context-dependent memory, making recall more likely when pressure rises. When you produce 1 daily receipt, you feed your dopaminergic system tangible progress, easing the tug toward rumination. Weekly 2% upgrades avoid learned helplessness by converting global self-judgment into local skill. Quarterly resets respect neuroplasticity's timeline. Synapses that have fired together for months become efficient, and changing keystones seasonally lets your identity breathe without losing structure. In plainer language, small, repeated proofs teach your body the story you want it to believe. A scene on a city sidewalk. Mora is a public defender who carries other people's storms. She wanted to bring the pause from the hallway to the courtroom and back home without fraying. Her integration map read like this: work, ground and gate before objection. Love, 1 true compliment before 8 p.m. Health, finish cycle at the courthouse door. Self, write the line I'm proud of. Her closing loop contract sat on a card in her wallet. Every day 1 receipt, compliment given, cycle finished, gate used. Every Friday 10 minutes for 2% upgrades. Every quarter 1 lunch alone with her notebook to choose the next keystones. Months later, she didn't feel lighter. She felt stronger, the way a bridge feels when the wind rises and the cables sing but hold. Anxiety visited. She had a room for it. Breathe again and feel the lower ribs widen like a small accordion. On the exhale, imagine dust settling on a windowsill behind your breastbone. If your shoulders have inched upward, roll them back and let them drop. Say quietly, I am the awareness, not the emotion. Let the sentence open 1 inch of space behind your eyes. That inch is where your map lives. You will still meet the old script, the one that says catastrophe is safer than quiet. It will pitch you the same bargain. Panic now, feel safe later. You'll answer with a different bargain. Pause now, act clean, feel steady sooner. On mornings you forget the map, you will rebuild it in a sip of air. On nights you want to abandon the contract, you will sign again with a 2-minute proof. Identity is not a thunderclap. It's the soft repetition of chosen moves until everyone around you knows what you'll do under heat, because you do too. There is one more practice, quiet and absolute, that seals everything you've learned. It's called the Sanctuary Minute. Once a day, you inhabit the room inside your chest on purpose. You sit or stand. You inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. You bring to mind 3 images: a place you love, a face you cherish, a sentence that guides you. You say the sentence inside. You feel the temperature of the air and the weight of your tongue. You open your eyes wider to include more of the room. Then you re-enter the day with 1 verb. The world will not notice a ceremony past. It will notice your posture. This minute is how you remember that you are not your schedule or your inbox or your reputation. You are the sky that decides which weather becomes movement. A last story, small and entire. Eli wakes at 5:58 to a text. We need to talk. He feels the spark flare in his throat. The old script scratches at the door. He pauses. 446. He runs colors, yellow shading red. Ground and gate. I'll reply at 7, resetting now. He pours water, steps onto the balcony, and feels the morning air brush his face. Integration map slips into his hands. Love, presence, verb, 1 honest line. At 7:01 he writes, glad to talk, I care about us, I'm free at noon, what outcome do you want by the end of the call? He eats, showers, walks, works. At noon he names the weather, uses signal then ask, and builds a boundary bridge. The call has edges and a path. That night he writes 2 honest lines in his ledger and touches the notebook with his palm. Receipt closed. Week by week he watches the arc of his days smooth and strengthen. The storms still roll in over the horizon. He doesn't shrink, he widens. Notice your breath once more, the cool on the inhale, the warmth on the exhale, the weight of your body on a trustworthy chair, the sound nearest you and the one farthest away. Place a hand over your sternum and feel heat spread beneath it. Whisper, I am the awareness, not the emotion. Add, if it fits, I live inside a pause that moves. Then look toward your next hour and choose 1 verb that serves someone you can picture. Do it. Leave a receipt. This is how anxiety becomes signal, how signal becomes choreography, and how choreography becomes character. When people ask you what changed, you won't point to a single trick. You'll tell them about a breath you learned to lengthen, a sentence you learned to say, a boundary that learned to breathe, a sprint that left proof, a ledger that grew, a playbook that waited in your pocket, a map that fit on a napkin, a contract you kept with your future self. You won't say you eradicated fear. You'll say you learned to greet it, guide it, and get back to building. You'll say you became someone whose presence lowers the room's shoulders by a centimeter. And on hard days, you'll say, I know what to do next, and your body will believe you.